Hey there, welcome to episode 27 of Killer POV. This is Rob G, one of your co-hosts from FEARnet and Icons of Fright. Joining me is Elric Kane from Inside Horror.
Yeah, I just did another episode, so it's still a thing.
It's still a thing?
It had been a while.
Inside Horror, you mean? Yeah, you did.
Yeah, we did.
With,
Yesterday we did Don Mancini, Curse of Chucky. Actually looks pretty good. I didn't get to watch it. Stacey got to see it. I was out of town. And she said it was really good. It's like a gothic horror, all set in a house, single location. They wanted to go back to creepy.
All right.
He had a funny quote, not on the show, but before behind the scenes, where he said that...
I'm butting in just because he always does it to me. You know what? To hell with you.
Oh, you're here too.
Yes.
And introducing the Salo of people, Rebekah McKendry.
Wow.
Thank
That
you,
reference,
darling.
not because I don't like her, it's something to do with shit eating. It's an inside joke, you guys.
It is.
Sure.
That's it. I got to come up with a really bad nickname for you too. So, but no, do proceed with your Chucky banter.
Yeah. What's the quote?
He said because the last two weren't that popular. Bride and Seed especially wasn't that popular. But in gay communities, apparently they do really well, and they get flown all over the place to show them and have big screenings. And he said that basically the word got to them that the straight population, like the straight horror fans, were kind of demanding a scary Chucky again, and that they needed it to return to the roots. And he thought that was interesting. It looks good. Yeah. I'm excited to see it.
All right.
Yeah. The Chucky doll I saw wasn't animatronic, so it was a little doll. He just sat there. Kind of disappointed.
Did he wink at you? Did you stare at him for a really long time and then swear that his hand moved a little?
He didn't, but he did have Tom Holland's voice, which was strange.
Oh, that is really strange. Yeah.
But they didn't, get along so well.
Okay.
Did he go on forever and tell you stories about why the industry sucks?
Who, Mancini or Tom Holland?
Tom Holland.
The Tom Holland Chucky doll? This is getting weird. Why don't we introduce the fourth member of this posse?
Oh, yeah. That's a good plan. So joining us for the show is a very special guest. It's a dear friend of all of ours. I consider him practically family to me. Mr. Sean Keller.
Hello.
Hi there.
The co-writer of Giallo.
This is true.
And
that's
one of them.
Ward.
And the recently made Tokarov.
Yeah, Tokarov.
Which I have no idea what it's about, but it has Nicolas Cage.
Has Nicolas Cage, and it's going to have a new title at some point.
Oh, it is?
Because, we named one movie Giallo, and no one could fucking pronounce it.
In this
I'm not
country.
supposed to say that, right?
That's okay. We don't have a sponsor. We don't have a sponsor yet.
Don't have a sponsor yet. Well,
I think
everyone.
I think we just got J&B whiskey because of that reference to Giallo.
But, trying to get the American audiences to wrap their tongue around Giallo was not easy.
Yeah.
Naming something after
Giallo.
a Russian gun, once again, really not smart.
Did they ever think about calling it...
reassess that?
Not even joking. Did they ever think in America to call it just Yellow? To actually take...
It was initially called Yellow. That was the name of our script. When it was sent to Dario to read, it was translated into Italian. And he goes, I love the title.
Right.
And you guys never intended for Dario to do it though. Last thought in your mind.
It was done as just a kind of silly homage to Argento and Bava and Martino and all those guys. And we thought it would be great to have a guy with yellow skin called Yellow and throw in all the tropes and try to make it slightly more Americanized. And
was it written for America?
It was absolutely written to be Euro sleaze for the American palate was the concept.
Weird.
I want to make this movie
and
I can.
Things literally got lost in translation.
How did the script even get to him? That seems like such a left field.
We hooked up with a small production company called Hannibal Pictures. Well, they're not that small. There's only a few people, but they crank out movies. And they hooked us up at one point with a guy who did Italian TV, Giorgio Serafini. He did a couple of series, and he was all into it, and he totally got the concept. He's like, yeah, we'll make it like Tenebrae. It'll be bright white and red. And so we were excited. All right, we're going to do it Italian style. He backed out because he got another TV series, and so we said, well, why don't we just try to get it to Dario? And a guy we knew Asia and gave the script to her, and she gave it to her dad, and he read it on Halloween.
Nice.
And called us
she
up
was
2 days after.
At first, too.
Asia was going to be in it. It was originally going to be Asia and Vincent Gallo and Ray Liotta. That was the original cast. Everyone sort of fell out.
That's my kind of thing.
Yeah. It was going to be something odd, and then it became something odder. So I'm pretty pleased. We got to.
And Brody plays like 17 roles in it.
He plays, I think, all of them.
Yeah, and he directed it.
But
he played Argento.
He's great. So we're 2 for 2 for the stuff that's just our credits for having Academy Award winning male lead actors between Brody and Cage. So.
Yeah, that's cool.
Wow.
Nice.
And you got Polanski's wife in there.
And Polanski's wife.
True. So that's pretty good. Did he ever visit?
No, he did not. Sorry.
I guess he really
Not
is a
an
scumbag.
exciting-
Killed the conversation,
There's a
Sean.
boom, hit the brakes.
Can we get Mike Williamson back in here? Get
Let's
this guy out of
just
here?
done. That's
I can
it.
start talking about aspect ratios.
Okay,
if you'd
good.
like.
Let's go back to that.
Actually, I do want to ask about this because Sean is actually on my trivia team for horror trivia night.
Zombie
Yes.
Redneck Torture Family, the reigning champions. Thank you.
You guys won last week. Don't get too cocky about it.
How many have we had?
Okay, you guys. You've
Who directed
Seven?
Beast
Seven?
from Haunted Cave
Are
ever?
there seven of
no.
them, right?
Monty
we've won
Hellman?
4 times.
This guy.
But you know what? To a very valid point that Mike Williamson brought up is that we talk more shit about each other than the other teams.
I know.
So like, we are like the worst teammates ever. But my point, I never got to ask you this because now you're friends with Mike Williamson and we're on the same team. But I remember when I first met him and you guys did not know each other, he was like having a shit fit, like, Giallo's not anything like a Giallo. I don't understand that movie. Well, have you ever had a conversation with him about Giallo?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Oh, yeah. And between he and I, there apparently was some sort of like he said, she said horseshit where somebody said that he said something crappy about Giallo and I had said something crappy back. And it was just somebody stirring a pot that didn't need any stirring. If you don't like the film, too bad.
So you hear that Mikey just called you a hothead.
Yeah.
So
It
much drama.
doesn't bother me. No, it wasn't Mike. It was someone in between actually
the go-between.
making things
interesting.
worse than they needed to be.
Oh.
And so I have no problem someone not liking
I will
my
give
film.
it this.
I'm
One of the
good friends
greatest
with-
posters ever. It's that one with the knives and the yellow.
Yeah.
Thank you.
That is one of the
That's
most
pretty great.
gorgeous posters
That
I've
was
ever seen.
my poster
That was
design. Thank you.
beautiful.
Oh, really? I didn't know that. I
Yeah.
did not know
I
that.
stole
love
it from
that poster.
Warhol. It was Warhol's Knives series, and I based one off that, and then we adjusted them so it wasn't so straight.
Was it
Warhol
used or
ripoff.
was it just kind of promotional?
It was.
I can't remember if it was-
promotional.
okay.
I think it got used in a couple of markets. So I've seen some really weird posters, like the Polish one had.
I
Like,
love
has,
Polish posters.
Has Hitchcock with a serving tray and
That's
Brody's head, like half of his head and half of Emmanuel Seigne's head, like mashed together on a silver platter. Like, doesn't
Yeah.
make any sense. The Romanian one was had a tagline that's like, "Be careful not to get hepatitis."
Oh wow!
So
that's valid. I like that one.
Yellow.
So
It
we
makes
I think we've
sense.
technically made an actual piece of Eurosleaze. So
Yeah, that's cool.
that pleases me immensely.
I like it.
Yeah,
That's
that
pretty
helps.
funny.
And just to go a little bit into Sean's history, so that you guys out there listening know, he did co-script Giallo with your writing partner Jim Agnew.
Yep.
And,
He's like a
but-
ghost in this town. I've never seen him since I met him. In 2 years, I never seen him at
Yeah,
places.
he does kind of keep a low profile.
He and I live separate lives. He comes over to my house every day, and we work together, and so we see enough of each other.
I see.
We're great friends. But,
He is real, though.
We're great friends because he's real.
He's a
not,
real guy.
It's not Tyler Durden. I'm
Okay.
not pulling double duty
Okay.
here. I couldn't.
That'd be funny if it was. But so you started out actually as an actor originally, correct?
Musician first,
Musician
but yeah.
and then an actor, because then he was in the first touring version of Rent
Yep.
and toured the country as Buddy Holly for
Oh,
a
that's
little
cool.
while.
That's fun.
Yep.
Cool. Which explains why he's so damn amazing at karaoke. If anyone's ever seen him do that,
I have
There
not seen
go.
you do karaoke. Oh
should-
wait, did I? Did
Probably
you do it
watching
at
me
Marisol's
destroy.
birthday?
Yeah, right,
Yes,
yeah, totally.
okay, I did see
He
you.
destroys. Yeah, it's pretty epic. And then you segued from that into screenwriting. Some of the first stuff, you did a couple of movies that got made by Sci-Fi, correct?
Correct.
And were those with Jim or on your own, or when did you
No.
hook up
Which
with
ones
Jim?
did you do?
They're so.
Oh no, you have to
so
tell
lovely.
now.
I hooked up with a guy named Tim Cox when he optioned a vampire script I'd written, and he came to me one weekend going, "I have a Monday deadline." And it was a Thursday. I have a Monday deadline,
What
and
do you got?
I haven't written page 1 of a script. Can you come over and help me? And so we spent 3 days together writing nonstop and wrote Attack of the Griffin, which was made with Amber Benson and Larry Drake.
Oh, yeah.
Nice.
And was considerably smaller than the colossal Jason and the Argonaut style epic that we wrote, so we didn't know any better. And parlayed that into getting a job writing Kraken Tentacles of the Deep.
I have a DVD copy of that.
There
You need to
go.
sign.
With the late Corey Monteith. Which is getting a little traffic now because, he kicked it. So thank you, Corey. Oh, that's terrible.
It's terrible.
I shouldn't say that, should I?
We're pouring one out for him right now.
There we
Yeah.
go. Dumping one
Drinking
from my
in his
dead
honor.
homies. He got the we need a bigger boat line. So sorry, Corey, that sucks. And then Tim Cox came to me like about a year after that and said, I got this great Sci-Fi Channel movie project. They've already approved it. an alien-possessed woolly mammoth. And I'm like, dude, that is the dumbest idea I've ever heard in my life. He's like, "Are you going to help me write it?" Sure, of course. Because if we could make that work, then I love the challenge. It seemed like the dumbest possible thing, and there was no way to make any sense of it. And so the fact that it ever aired kind of
what was it called?
Freaks me out. It was called Mammoth.
Oh, I was hoping like Alien Mammoth.
No, sci-fi was still spelt correctly then, and wasn't doing the crossover like animals yet. So
Mammalian or
no
Alien.
And my writing partner Jim Agnew produced the first ever Sci-Fi Channel original picture, Soul Keeper. So we've got that like.
How did the two of you hook up?
He was a DJ where I was tending bar at the beauty bar in Hollywood, and after hours we'd sit around and bitch about Hollywood and how we could do it better. And
that is how most deals get made in Hollywood, I have to say. Yeah. Like most of the people that I work with on a regular basis, it just happened from sitting around drinking and bitching about the industry.
Yeah, we sat around, usually with like bloody knuckles and half a rager going, because that bar was kind of a fighting bar, and just bitch and complain about, we could do that better. And did you see how poorly they worked that? And talking out our asses the whole time, of course, but we decided to write something, and the first thing we wrote was LA Gothic, which is something that we're still developing with John Carpenter. So
with who?
John Carpenter.
That's right.
And one more time.
Amazing.
With the legendary.
But
could you tell
you've already done a Carpenter film, right?
We did, yeah, because of our relationship with John, working on LA Gothic for so long. He asked us to do production rewrites on the ward for him. So the Rasmussen brothers, Sean and Michael, they had their script sold, so it's not. I don't feel like it's our project; it's theirs. But we, Jim and I went in and gave it the old college try and gave it a polish and got.
Was it mostly character or story?
It was mostly character. We just helped, make the protagonist active. Beefed up a few scares and just simple stuff, nothing huge. It's no detraction from the Rasmussens. They did a lovely job on the script, and it's just always a blast to work with Carpenter, and Peter Block produced that one too, so it was really fun to work with him because he's got a very interesting perspective on things.
Yes. Was that under a bigger boat?
That was under a bigger boat, and Echo Lake, I think, co-produced that.
My favorite story anyone's told me here, and you can deny it if you want. You once told me how reading a script in an office with Carpenter. Can you tell people the writing process with John Carpenter? Because it really made me laugh.
Amazing, yeah.
I just love the image of this.
The first time Jim and I went to meet him, we go in and we're trying so hard not to be nerdy little fanboys. Yeah. But,
because he responds so well to that.
Yeah, that's his favorite thing in the world.
Right.
He loves an ass kisser. Yeah. So we go into his office, which is actually a house in Hollywood, just a couple blocks from the Chinese Theater. It's right there.
What's the address?
It looks like a house.
It is on. No.
It really does, though. It's in like a subdivision, and there's nothing marking it. There's nothing that even makes it look like an office. Like when I was given the address, I had to drop off something for Fango because we did the Carpenter issue. And they wanted me to go over there and drop off a whole bunch of papers to sign and pick some stuff up. And I'm walking up and I'm like, I'm going to someone's house. This is so weird.
Like
and then I walk in and he's like sitting at a desk. And I was like, whoa, it's crazy. So,
well, you get let in, and in that first living room, you walk in and it's just filled with like European posters for Assault on Precinct 13 and stuff like that. And of all the tchotchkes, they're lining the walls, and there are a shit ton of them.
If you want pictures of it, check out our Carpenter edition.
A little cardboard Chinese takeout box. It says Big Trouble in Little China that I wanted to take so badly. I thought that was so cool. But we go into his office, and John, being like this awesome, magnanimous dude, he's got grapes and cheese and crackers and water and coffee and all that shit laid out on a table for you. And we're like, we're being treated with respect here.
Yeah.
But we go in, and it's like, well, I really love the script, guys. There's some really good stuff in it. Let's start. Like, what do you mean? He cracks open the script and goes, fade in. and proceeds to read our screenplay to us.
I love that.
Out loud. And John likes to work in the afternoons for sort of small hours to not interfere with his basketball and God of War schedule. And and so we
if you read his tweets, that's even funnier because every single thing he tweets about is basketball. Yeah. I was so excited. I'm like, I'm one of John Carpenter's followers. No, nothing about her. It's just basketball.
Like, damn it, Kobe.
And he's right.
He's always right. So we sit there for a week every day for a week from like 4 to 5, 3:30 to 4:30 roughly. with him reading our script aloud to us, and every so often him pausing to look up at us and go, "Fellas," like, oh man.
When he gets to a line he doesn't like. Ooh.
Yeah, or even worse, he'd go, "Ba-dump bump." And you're like, "Oh crap!" And like scratch that out off the script. And so he's
a tough
That's a tough guy.
Yeah, he was really tough, but he was the best teacher ever because he was just like, strip it down, break its back. Don't put in any of this unnecessary crap. You've got a story, you've got your characters, all these little frills on it, they're distracting from the story and the characters, Yeah. So he made fun of us for, incorporating a few too many like Tarantino-isms or other stuff, being young, foolish screenwriters. Well, I guess we weren't that young,
So
but
you
we were
had
new
them
to
reference
it.
Fright
There
films.
were references all over the place.
You
And he
watched
liked some of
Battle
them.
Royale, do you?
He loved some of the
you ever
references, but
seen-
hated most of them.
Interesting.
Wow.
Did he? Now you guys have written how many things with him in mind? You've had a couple things pass through.
Yeah,
LA Gothic that and something
we
else.
had LA
Right?
Gothic. We had that. We had another pitch. We went out with him, but didn't get picked up. We've worked with him substantially. He's a great dude.
But it's no longer as easy as it was for him to get a film made now, right? Even
No,
for John,
it's not easy
tough for everyone. Yeah,
it's difficult for anyone. I think it's
except Darren Bousman, who makes 4 films a year.
Yeah. But his wife sends me his comic books now, and I like his comic books.
Cool.
John Carpenter's comic books. They're
I
quite
haven't read
good.
any of them yet.
Yeah, you should meet his wife. She'll send them to you.
All right.
I don't even know
And you
how
can
I
find
ended up
her
on
by
the
going
list.
to Chinese.
Go
Go down the lane into a blank area, and I'm just going to wing it from there.
And she'll, yeah. I mean, I love the guy. I think it's difficult for any older director to get respect because Hollywood is run by new regimes every 10 to 15 years.
Right.
And so you get people who honestly don't give a shit.
Friedkin was
about
saying that.
people. I know.
Friedkin said that on the Sorcerer thing. He's like, they don't even watch movies. They don't even remember your movies. They didn't even remember Sorcerer when he was trying to get the film back. The people at Paramount, or it was Paramount, I think, didn't even remember what that was. So it was hard. They were all so young. He couldn't even relate, and he didn't have that kind of status that he used to have. And some people say. I was talking to somebody the other day. They said part of his mystique about being kind of scary and being intense back then. Part of that was probably all bullshit made up because it really worked to get shit done for him with the studios, because the studios would go, "Oh my god, freaking like," and they were saying it's
hard to
half of
work
that's
with.
probably yeah. But I've heard some of that was like kind of.
We need to get a reputation, guys,
manufactured.
that we're really hard to work with. So
Yeah, you are. You're the
well,
Salo of co-hosts.
Elric is difficult
And
to
good. Hey, that's a
show.
Criterion Collection film. So,
It is.
You're in that club.
so don't
better
worry.
than
It's
being
like-
like the Teen Witch of people.
classy, smut.
Thank you. If I'm going to
Art
be
house
naked
smut.
and poo eating, I want it to be Antonioni.
Oh, okay, that's
There you
fine.
go.
Who did
I don't
that
know
one?
if I'm going to go
Pierre
poo-eating, I'm going to go
Pasolini.
John
Pasolini,
Waters.
thank you.
Yeah, there you go. You're going divine or nothing at all.
Yeah. That's how I prefer my.
Of course, that was dog shit. So
True.
Well, it is amazing though that as hard as it might be for someone like Carpenter to get a film off the ground these days, like just the resurgence for his work all of a sudden, like all these Blu-rays and record, like Death Waltz is doing all the vinyl versions of all his soundtracks. Scream Factory is pretty much putting out all his movies on Blu-ray.
We did
Pretty
an
much every
entire
other week.
issue dedicated
Yeah.
to him, and it has sold more just within this quarter than any other issue.
Amazing.
it was a
Which
good
means-
interview too. It was very matter of fact. The Justin's
Yeah.
interview with him was. I like that.
That
I like
means
that it
we've
was just
done
each film.
at least we were only supposed to print 5,000 copies, and we sold that out within the first week, so we printed more.
Wow.
And so they're selling like crazy still.
Yeah,
So.
I got one of those for you, by the way, Sean.
Cool, thanks.
Still sitting on my desk.
Yeah, the musician side isn't explored much with him. Do you know much about his early days? How did he get into music? Was that saying he was always musical?
Well,
or-
his father was a music teacher. He was a professor of music at Bowling Green. And so that's why he moved to Kentucky, because his dad got a job there. That's why I knew that answer.
That was an amazing trivia question.
Everyone fought me on it. Fucking Jared was fighting me. He's like, he's from Kentucky. So, no, he's from Carthage, New York. He moved there when he was
And that
a
is an
kid.
example of the type of questions that
Oh
Ryan
my
Turek
God.
and
That's
I
hard.
asked.
yeah, it was tough. Yeah,
Where
everyone
was
loved
he
Kentucky.
We all
born?
went for Kentucky.
Yeah.
Yep.
Sean is like, nope, it's New York. We're like, really?
Yep.
Yeah,
So,
I knew that one.
amazing.
But so music was in his blood. He was raised by a music teacher. His father was a professor of music. And so he did it his whole life. He fell in love with Elvis early on. I mean, him picking up the Elvis pick was not because he didn't like the material. He got it pretty much because he was a composer of his own music for film. They thought, he understands music. He can shoot a film about Elvis. But he loved Elvis. I mean, he wanted to be a musician more than being a filmmaker. So that was until he went to USC.
Did he score? I have a feeling he did. He scored a non-Carpenter film, didn't he? I thought he did one.
Yeah.
That could be a good trivia question. Did
I'm on my
Carpenter
phone,
ever?
guys.
I
Did he
don't
ever?
know the answer.
It might not be true,
We
but
have the capabilities to find this out
You
right
look it up.
now.
Eric's going to take one of my beers.
I'm gonna have another beer.
If
Hey, it's
somebody-
Oktoberfest time. So
I
I brought
suddenly-
Should we go
Yeah.
backwards and talk about what's
Yeah,
out this
yeah,
weekend?
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
let's
And
do
I
that.
suddenly
Let's
remembered I don't
backpedal.
like Diet
Sometimes we
Sunkiss, so
backpedal.
there's your Diet Sunkiss chaser.
Oh, you don't
We
like
just
it?
want to go with the flow. So, Elric, so you finally seen You're Next.
I did.
This is it. You
all
finally went.
alone in a theater up in Oakland. I was at a wedding this weekend. There was no one there. There's like 3 people, really annoying kind of people. But that didn't, I'll tell you a couple
More
things
so than
about
your
it.
family?
I will say this, and man, that film would have been such a different experience. Imagine having gone to a festival, knowing nothing about it.
yeah, yeah.
How great
Yeah.
that must feel.
It must have been a great
I mean, I
festival
didn't know a
movie.
lot because I'm very good at trying to be spoiler free, and he knows this. I avoid trailers. I didn't even
too.
see the full trailer of this. Yeah, so kindred souls in that way. I of course knew Sharni Vincent was going to kick ass and all that. I'd heard all that stuff, and we won't talk about the plot beyond
Because
what I
Sean
just
hasn't
said.
seen it yet.
Yeah, Sean
Rebecca,
hasn't
have
seen
you?
it.
No,
You
I
haven't?
have
Okay, neither of
seen
you guys have
large
seen
chunks of it.
Okay.
But I
that
have not
doesn't
s-
count.
I know.
Stop
I haven't
saying that
seen-
about
I don't even
movies.
understand.
But
Where did
that's
she
what they
see
said.
chunks?
She
They
sees
do
large
it a lot of
chunks.
times. They do this with press stuff where they'll take us in and then we get to watch like a 25-minute
Yeah,
chunk.
but that doesn't count.
Yeah.
That you haven't
You
seen
shouldn't
it
be
yet.
able to review a film like that.
Yeah.
I didn't review it. Sam did.
Okay, but just thinking about that difference of something that's been hyped and there's billboards and it's lines, which I'm really happy it got that because
Yeah.
that's just a great change for an independent film. But that does change your expectations. So my expectations were still met. I absolutely enjoyed it. I thought the chemistry between most of the core actors, especially Swanberg, who I've never been a fan of,
Yeah,
and
same here.
AJ. And in
But
this
him
film, I
and AJ.
loved him. I thought he was so funny,
Yeah, the two
so
of them
well cast.
together.
They're so waspy.
Yeah.
He just nailed it. Just nailed it. A couple of the casting felt a little more arbitrary. Barbara Crampton was beautiful to see again. But in general, it's just Larry Fessenden doing sexy time at
Oh,
the
yeah.
start.
Oh, my God.
That's the only spoiler I'll give you. There's some sexy time with Larry
kick off the
Fessenden.
movie with Larry.
And
man.
Now I gotta go
Going-
tonight. And when is this over? Can I?
Yeah, you got
probably
it.
Larry Fessenden being sexy.
But it's
When is he not?
Really quick, guys. There
interjection.
was a short that was written by, and it's an Academy Award-winning short,
Good,
The
right?
Resurrection of Bronco Billy. It was from
Oh yeah,
1970.
we watched that at.
Which he
Jump
sort
In.
of directed.
He-
He co-directed.
yes.
Sort of directed.
Yeah.
That
He
was
said
the
no one
first
directed.
thing he ever did the composition on. The second thing was Dark Star. So
Yeah, he does
Really?
only
Yeah,
some
he only
stuff.
scored his own.
it's all his own
You know what?
stuff
I heard
here.
a rumor. I think if maybe I'm getting my facts mixed up, but I could have sworn that when Robert Rodriguez did Planet Terror, he inquired about trying to get John Carpenter to do the
Why
score.
not? Right.
And he
Yeah.
used.
he just said no.
Used one of his cues.
Yeah.
The cues from one of the cues when the crazies come out from Escape from New York is used repeatedly.
yeah,
through that.
yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
cool.
And I
Nice.
think that's why. I think he tried to get him for that.
Okay.
But
Sorry.
anyways,
Back to You're Next.
So
Sorry.
You're next.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And anyway, look. We will briefly touch on why we all think it maybe isn't been
Yeah.
the home run. But I also want to say this about it. I would be far more interested if all these people tweeting about their theories about why it's not doing well just spent that same energy saying you should go see this.
Yeah.
Just so if you want to keep seeing independent films in theaters.
Yeah,
Because
yeah.
the thing is, my vision is that it was never meant to be a big home run out of the gate. It's a word of mouth film that
yeah.
people go
Yeah,
enjoy
yeah.
and then tell their friend about. So the key is keeping it in theaters long enough to let that happen.
Yeah, and I think they've got at least 2 weeks on those 2,500 screens.
So that's but it is still, it always is valid because there was a big marketing push.
Yeah.
Why perhaps it hasn't produced as they expected it might. We could even Sean, without having seen it, could probably.
Well, how many festivals did it play?
a lot.
A lot.
Exactly.
Of people
And
seen
so the people who go to the festivals are your
Your horror
core.
fans.
They waited in
horror
line for
fans.
2 hours to see it.
And
that
they're the
day.
type of people that if they hadn't seen it in the theater would probably drag 2 or 3 of their not so rabid fans to go see it with them in the theater.
Yeah.
I think when you hit that point of oversaturation at the festivals, it kind of damages the film. And the huge lag time in between, but I guess the average Joe doesn't know about that.
Let's do bullet
They
points
don't.
that have
Well,
been brought
here's
up. Well,
what-
some of them. Oh, sorry, you want to?
Yeah, well, I tell you, because I saw it a year ago, but I went opening weekend. I got a group of people together to go see it. I enjoyed it far more the second time seeing it because knowing what was going to happen, it was a lot of fun to see it all kind of play out. And half the audience was friends, half the audience was not. So it was fun hearing the audience that wasn't with us react to everything because it definitely played like gangbusters to them. But yeah, I mean, the biggest issues in terms of why it didn't do better. Well, first of all, the way they marketed it, to be quite frank, because there was one trailer, and it's a darn good trailer, but even we were talking about this last week. I'm not a fan of home invasion movies. So I see something with a bunch of people in masks, like attacking innocent people. I'm already out. I'm like, I don't want to see that. If they even remotely hinted that this girl was going to kick all their asses, I'd be like, oh, cool. Now that's different. And you're even saying like this should have been marketing to girls.
Well, I was just saying like if you had a daughter who was 16 and you saw the trailer as is, there's no way she's going to see that movie. And not as a parent. I'm just saying she won't care about that film for the most part. If that same film shows the heroine as some sort of survivalist, it's starting to turn the tables. Suddenly it's interesting. It's empowering and it's new. It's not new, but it's a shade of new.
They also didn't let on at any point in the trailer to the fact that it was a comedy. And I mean, I don't want to call it a comedy.
There's comedy.
It's dark,
It's dark, but I mean, it's definitely.
I don't think Simon writes humor. I think the improv came from the actors. There's a real feeling that
again,
funny.
I haven't seen the whole thing, but the segments I saw had a lot of humor.
The character interplay is very funny, but I get the feeling that came from through the filming, not so much the script. There's a definitely sense that all the mumblecore, ex-mumblecorers were just kind of riffing on certain parts, and that was pretty funny.
Yeah. Well, the other thing is I do think they waited a little too long on it because The Purge came out 3 months ago and just took the wind out of it.
Yep.
And because people just saw a similar trailer with dudes with masks.
Marketing. Yeah,
it's like.
And a lot of people had said they should have gotten out in front of that. And that that had been mentioned a long time. And then, I was just saying before this that I also thought there's the fantasy element that sometimes, we as horror fans like a fantasy, whether it's supernatural or even The Purge is set in the future. Mm-hmm. So there's some distancing to what could really happen to us. And You're Next, in the actual film, there is. It is got a fantasy element. In the trailer, there is not. It is just. And also using a Lou Reed song so beautifully in the trailer. It's not as good as the actual song they use in the movie, which is completely hypnotic and amazingly used. So to me, that was a misstep.
Well, I'd said to you before the show that, my wife has to live with me, and I'm always spouting all types of crap about movies all the time. And I was trying to get her to go see the film with me, and she goes, what's that about? What's that about? I'm like, she lives with me. She's with like a horror nerd, and I'm always talking about all that. Hey, you got to see it. My buddy's in it. And just from between me and between the spots, she couldn't tell what the film was about.
Right.
Yeah. We're friends with AJ, and I had to explain to Dave what it was about because he hadn't seen the trailer. It didn't play anywhere that we were watching. I mean, it wasn't Hulu or on most of the channels.
One thing I'd like to throw out to everyone, because you guys will have a better idea than even me, is my overall feeling was this, that perhaps general American the general movie-going population, not the film horror nerds, maybe we're burned out on horror films in general because a couple of them had done so well. That means your average audience goer isn't going to 4 horror films a summer. So if The Purge and Conjuring did great. Both of them did great. So if you've gone to 2 and then your boyfriend says to the girl, hey, should we go see another horror?
Also, World War Z is thrown into that.
Right, World War Z. So I wonder, how we'll know.
Getting its re-release. Did you see that?
Yeah,
I didn't.
Really?
They're doing a double feature of World War Z and
Star Trek Into Darkness.
Star Trek Into Darkness. Paramount's 2 hits. They're doing 2 for the price of 1 and doing IMAX 3D. Double feature.
That's cool. I like that. I like
good
that
job,
idea.
Paramount.
That's cool to give it another shot.
You know why? The real reason
wanted
is
to cross 200 million.
They're so close to 200 million.
Right.
And
No, I still like that though. But hey, why not? Like, let the audience decide.
Yeah,
bring it
true.
back. But we'll be able to tell. What I was thinking is we'll be able to tell if there's any truth to this idea when Insidious 2 hits. Because, there's a film that obviously there hasn't been a lot of hype about. It seems pretty quiet.
Not. And it's about 2 weeks away.
Yeah, it's very close, and it's coming so close to the heels of The Conjuring, and we'll just see if the audience, your general audience, isn't going to too many horror films.
It's going to do gangbusters.
I think it is.
It's a 2 for 1.
Yeah.
And sequels always outperform the first one, especially in a supernatural horror.
I hope so. I'm excited to see. I mean,
this is James's year, and this is...
Yeah. Plus, there's nothing. The weird thing about this Halloween is there's nothing besides the Carrie remake.
Yeah,
everything got moved out of the slot.
Why has that always been the case? Why have horror films why for instance is Insidious 2 coming out in 2 weeks
September?
And not October 15th?
I think
there's always been a saturation then.
No, well, I mean, in Insidious's case, it's because they wanted to stay away from Paranormal 5, but that got pushed to next year.
Right.
And for the longest time, Halloween was the worst time you could have released anything because between Saw and Paranormal, there was always something that owned Halloween.
Dominated.
And so, I mean, I remember this being an issue when Trick or Treat came out where they kept delaying it because they were, we'll release it next Halloween. Nope, Saw still owns it. We'll release it the Halloween after this. And it kept getting put off. And then finally it just got pushed out to video.
There's traditionally an August release of a horror movie.
Yeah.
Because, and traditionally a couple of September releases. And the October releases, I think, are kind of foolhardy because the people who are really into the horror, they got stuff to do in October. And plus, once Halloween's over, once it's November 1st, people's attitudes change
to Christmas.
100%.
Yeah.
So if you release something like Halloween weekend, it had better kill that weekend because its weekend, its second week is going to drop off, 70%.
We call it amateur night.
Yeah, of course.
It is.
It's the build up to, but there's like The Devil's Rejects came out in August. There's usually a high profile August release. I think that's actually Lionsgate's routine.
Yeah.
They do
Last
that
year was The Possession.
regularly.
Yeah.
The
The Sam Raimi
Possession,
thing.
they dropped it in that slot. There's always that August, like, for those people who are going, ooh, Halloween's just around the corner. And I think it's the great way to begin that season.
Tradition,
so I'm way more in favor of that than like the August release, because who here has time for a new release?
Yeah,
In the last 2 weeks of
Oh my
October.
God,
Actually, I just
October
hate that.
is
It's
insane.
horrible.
That's interesting.
I mean, it's for all of us in the horror industry, Halloween, the whole month of October, it's pretty much like Christmas for us, where it's just every single night there is something going on that we have to do.
And just like Christmas, 2/3 of those things become obligations.
Yes.
Like, not like,
have to
I'm so excited to go to
drive.
this. And now it's,
I have to
All I
drive
know is
downtown
our-
for a screening.
Our
and
trivia night in October, without giving anything away, is going to be amazing.
It is
That's all I can
gonna
say.
be All nude?
Amazing.
intense.
All nude.
Yeah.
Just for the last
just
winning
the
team.
audience, though.
what did everyone else see? Anybody?
Yeah, anyone
Anybody-
see?
Yes, I actually saw a lot this week. So I watched The Last Will and Testament of Rosalind Leigh.
Which I hear is great. No,
It
not
had
for
its
you?
moments for me.
She watched only 4 minutes of it.
Oh, okay.
No, I just watched the whole thing.
She saw a huge chunk of it.
Slam.
I thought it was good.
I watched the whole thing from start to
All right,
finish.
all right.
It's fascinating, and it was well written because it does pretty much only have one actor through the whole thing. I mean, there's like flashback clips to other things that happened in the house, but it's pretty much just one actor who's returned to his mom's house, and she's in this weird angel cult, and he's kind of discovering over time that the cult was not quite as
spoilers?
pure as he thought they were, or as they posed to be. The set design on it is brilliant. The house is the most just intricate thing I've ever seen. Just every shot was riveting because of the crap that they put in the house. The plot, kind of an obvious twist at the end. So.
And this is
Is it a
Rue Morton?
low budget thing?
Yeah,
or-
it had to be low budget. I mean, it didn't leave the house. There was only one actor. Yeah.
Could you make a stage play of it?
Yes, you easily could. I mean, you would have to have like a hell of a way to change locations, but yeah.
Well, I'm always thinking those are grand opportunities for people whose films don't really go that great. Let's like try to do a staging
Off-Broadway,
of
yeah.
like, or just, small little theater someplace. No one does it. And the few times I've seen horror in the theater, it's terrifying. Like I saw The Lady in Black and oh my goodness.
Yeah, you would have to be able to move room to room feasibly. But yes.
We're gonna have a little theater talk here.
Right.
Yeah. So
Repulsion, the stage play.
I was gonna bring up Jesus Christ Superstar, but
when you're masking your wings, so
I'm going to walk. If one more guest mentions that, puritanical nonsense.
okay. So the next thing I watched, Gene Rollins' Night of the Hunter, which I'm not going to get into. I'll just say it's freaking awesome. You should watch.
I haven't
Night
seen
of the
that one.
Hunter.
I haven't seen that one.
It's awesome. It's a girl wakes up kind of meandering around a road. They pick her up. She doesn't know where she is or where she's coming from, except she knows that she's running from somebody. They take her to an insane asylum, and there are others there like her that
cool.
have that same memory, and it's about all of them kind of gathering together to figure out what the hell's going on.
And that'd be the first act turning point in any other filmmaker's film. But in a Gene
In
Rollins film,
Rollins film,
that's the whole
everything.
story. That's in 100 minutes.
Yes. So, I thought about writing my article on it for FEARnet this week, and I emailed Lawrence yesterday, and I was like, this one's a slow burn. I just don't think it's going to fly.
Yeah.
So instead, I watched Breeders, which my article on will be coming out shortly, I assume.
Right
And Breeders is Charlie. It's a full moon film. They released it under Wizard Video back in 1986. It's pretty much horny chud. It's like aliens infect the subway system of New York City.
Horny Chud was my DJ name.
Aliens infect the New York City subways, abandoned subways, and they come out at night and rape women, trying to impregnate them with their alien seed. So it's kind of chud and humanoids of the deep meshed together.
Yeah.
And it's hilariously, fantastically bad.
But it's sexy.
So, yeah.
Got you going.
It's sexy. Yeah. That's
Well,
it.
you know.
I was totally into
Monster
it.
rape is so
So
It's hot right now. You're not wrong.
Whoa.
That Twilight thing really worked.
And then this is the thing that I have to complain about this week. I watched one more thing. So this week, Dave and I were doing a lot of like we organized our DVDs, like we alphabetized all of them, and I alphabetized all my books and things like that. And so I bought the entire 2013 Shark Week because I'm a big Shark Week fan. So I bought the entire 2013 Shark Week off Amazon to watch while I'm doing these things.
What's wrong with
Shut up. So I decide to watch one that's called Megalodon, the Real Killer or something like that. And it's a fictionalized reality show found footage piece.
Oh, God.
It's not a documentary.
And Sean wrote it.
And there's like a blink and you'll miss it disclaimer right at the beginning.
Oh my God.
And she blinked. The baby cried and she's like,
angry. The whole way through, I was like, is this seriously what they're putting on Shark Week now? Is fictionalized found footage? I was so pissed off. Not to mention, if I am paying to watch a TV show called Megalodon, the Real Killer, or whatever the secondary title was.
Like with quotes, the real killer.
I want to see the damn shark, and you never actually see him. Sci-fi can handle a shark. I don't want people to spend their money on this. Do not waste your money on it. So then I was like, okay, you know what? I bought the whole season. So then I tried to watch one that was called Voodoo Sharks, which was supposed to be about sharks in the Louisiana bayou. Once again, it is a fictionalized reality show.
I don't think
about
sharks can survive in the bayou, can they?
infecting the bayou. Bull sharks can.
Bull sharks can travel brackish waters and fresh water.
Yes.
Right, so if nothing else, you learned that.
So
Narragansett Bay, there was a bull shark
this.
that ate a couple of people back in the 60s. Yes.
I am telling you this because sharks definitely coincide with the horror community. I think we've always had kind of a sick fascination with them. And I think the Shark Week definitely appeals. But
you shouldn't buy this one.
Do not buy this one because I went to Shark Week to watch documentaries about sharks, and instead I get really crappily made fictionalized TV shows.
They're all the same. Every single Shark Week documentary is the same.
Air Jaws 1 is different from Air Jaws 2.
Shark Week is a sham.
I did enjoy Great White Serial Killer this round, which is where they compare, again, getting back to the horror stuff, they compare
It was Jeffrey Dahmer writing a Great White.
They compare Great Whites to a serial killer.
I like that.
Great White
Serial Killer. I like that.
Listening, then.
It was
It's the
actually
green
pretty
light.
ingenious because they took the algorithm that they used to figure out the hunting grounds of serial killers. Like if you look at serial killers' victims and where they place the bodies, there's actually an algorithm that they used to figure out where the serial killer actually lived. And they were trying to apply it to shark attacks.
We've taken the brain of Richard Ramirez and placed it inside this great white shark.
Wasn't that Deep Blue Sea?
Totally. Speaking of serial killers, really quickly, while I lived in Milwaukee, I did a little Habitat for Humanity and refurbished the apartment that Jeffrey Dahmer moved into.
Oh, wow.
Wow, that's a Habitat for
You mean
Humanity.
Yeah.
Some poor family, immigrant family who has nowhere else to go is living in Jeffrey Dahmer's
Well, no,
apartment.
I moved it before
Sad.
I made it habitable for him to move in and then start killing people in it.
Oh,
So
I
it's
thought
you.
you
Wow.
rehabbed
You're
it
the one.
afterwards.
No, he was in that building where I was there scraping paint and replacing
weird.
windows, and then I saw the news the year that I had left school and went, oh, crap.
Wow.
Oh, wow.
So, okay.
All he thought.
I got
Yeah, well, I think
Crap.
every internal organ
responsible.
just sort of shriveled a little
that's
when I
pretty
saw
funny.
that. It was just horrifying.
But we are actually here today. The topic that we were going to
Wait,
talk
I wanted
about.
to talk about the denim killer.
Oh, what did you see this
And
week,
I saw
Elric?
things this week
Yeah,
too.
Sean saw-
Sorry, guys, I'm jumping.
I'm going to do mine
Spit it
in
out.
4 seconds. Wearing
episode.
denim is not scary if you're going to kill people. The Evictors.
I saw your Twitter.
That's
Oh, the
very quick.
Evictors.
The Evictors. That
Evictors.
said, if you have Jessica Harper in your film, I will watch the entire 90 minutes, even though I hated the film. I really would almost say I hated the film. I think it had like a 1 star anyway, but she just looked incredible in every frame. It's just a really dull film, but the killer's wearing all denim and just something not scary. Like even when he's in Dark Shadows and you see the denim,
You keep
there's something
saying-
about the trend. He looks too cool,
You
like
keep
a
saying
Levi
all
commercial.
denim, and I'm picturing this 1980s denim jumpsuit that's got
Pretty much.
a bedazzler on it.
Yeah, I don't know. He looked like a weird, cool Levi farmer. I don't know.
So, but overalls, they're denim. They're still scary.
Yeah, they are. They are.
Just want to clarify where you like your denim cutoff is for fashion and horror.
Yeah, I like to mix up. Anyway, avoid it. And Sean.
I finally caught Zan Cassavetes' Kiss of the Damned this week.
Oh,
Cool.
what'd you
Very
think of
nice.
it?
Really, really liked it. And I don't like Jean Rollin and his type of stuff typically.
hell with you.
Gene Rollin, as
I
everyone
don't
calls.
either, to be honest.
His films don't really do it for me, and Jess Franco doesn't really do it for me. But
But there's so
this-
much ass in them.
There's so much ass in them. Yeah.
but
That's
We
what-
can also find that other places.
I mean,
we have internet.
The
the internet is for porn.
Yeah.
But I thought it was sexy. And
Yeah, it was.
kind of just a little bit dirty,
Yeah.
and fun. And
I think the
really
hottest
liked
thing I saw all year was that shower scene. That shower scene with the fog. She just filmed it so nicely. It's just hot. Just you can't express it any other way. It's hot.
I like the kiss through the door too.
Oh yeah, the kiss through the door is
Kiss through the
beautifully
Door is great. I
filmed.
mean,
and the
it's-
soundtrack.
The soundtrack's great. I already ordered the vinyl. I can't wait.
Yeah.
It's a grand film. I really liked it.
Yeah,
I also
top
caught The Pact.
yeah.
And we talked about this at Emma's party.
That's right. And I started watching it after my wife's been like going to bed early lately. I'm going to go to bed at 10. I'm like, oh, crap. And so I started watching it after everyone had gone to bed. And I watched like the first 20 minutes and went, nope, turned it off. And like, I'm going to wait until the rest of the family's around to watch the rest of this. It kind of gave me the willies. So totally enjoyed it. I turned it off before ice cream.
Yeah, good. See, I was about to say that, so I'm glad you got the joke earlier.
So I turned it off before that point, so I hadn't let, the air hadn't been let out of the balloon yet. And so I'm kind of horrified. And honestly, I hadn't had a movie scare me in a long time.
Yeah.
And so that was really pleasing. And I think the last time I stayed up late and watched something that freaked me out was watching Begotten. And so... And it took me like 4 or 5 times to get through the first 10 minutes of that movie.
You understood it enough to let it freak you out? The first time I watched that movie, I was like, what the hell just happened?
I stopped like 10 minutes in 3 times. Just that whole first scene of the god slashing its, disemboweling itself. And the sound of the cutting. And that's just sort of, the film is amazing because it looks old, but it looks like Dead Sea Scrolls old, not like, silent film.
It's walking
old,
along a tightrope without a net because you have no idea what's underneath. You don't know where it's going. You don't know what's underneath. You're just watching something.
Yeah,
that's unique now.
Of some god thing.
Yeah,
whatever. Fucking freak me out. The first like 10 minutes over and over and over freak me out. But then you get into it and it's less scary as it keeps going.
Imagine if in the middle of Begotten, Casper Van Dien had started to eat ice cream. And that is The Pact. That is my review for The Pact.
Wow. They should have put that.
Did you make it to the sign? Did you make it to the scene?
Yeah.
What'd you think? It was a pretty good scene. He ate ice cream pretty well. I thought it was pretty cool.
Casper Van Dien
Just unexpected is all I'm saying.
I thought it was really cute.
You know what's funny? A lot of people that year when that film came out and Lovely Molly came out, and we've talked about it a few times, and this seemed to almost hold up completely. Everyone who liked The Pact didn't seem to like Lovely Molly, and the people I knew who liked Lovely Molly didn't seem to. And it felt like almost like, which kind of paranormal do you like? What affects you or
it's
freaks
like
you
the
out?
cilantro of filmmaking.
Yeah, I know. That's interesting.
Yeah.
I'm going to store that one away.
Cilantro. I need to give both of those a chance again.
I really like Lovely Molly, and I didn't much care for The Pact, but I get it.
My so-called life. Cilantro. Sorry.
But I don't know why that was. And that's like 5 or 6 people I know who would fit into that.
Yeah.
Weirdly enough. I don't know why.
I would agree.
Like they're very different.
I've not yet seen it. I'll watch Lovely Molly.
Yeah, I couldn't make it through Lovely Molly, but I want to give it a chance because so many people liked it. I saw The Pact, and I didn't think much of it when I saw it. But then I stopped by AJ Bowen's place, and he was watching it. And for some reason, when I was watching it with him, like the second time, like I really got into it and dug it, and he liked it too. So I was like, oh, this is pretty cool. I didn't realize. I think I missed some of the twists in it. Like I wasn't paying attention enough.
You know when you watch,
I get that because the first time I watched it with my husband, who was like, I remember at the time he was building a laptop for Fangoria, and he was like redoing the laptop and screaming the whole time. And I didn't like the movie because I didn't know what was going on.
Yeah, I think that's what it was.
He was probably high
too.
He was probably high too.
He did just put a TV up in my house. Good man. That's a good man you got there. Made a lot of holes in the way of putting up my TV today, but he is a good man.
Did it?
Gotta find that stud.
But he was high.
He did find that stud.
Yeah, so I don't know. I think The Pact is really cool. But have you ever watched the last episode of Lost? I saw it for the first time on a Super HD TV. I don't know what the difference is, but where it looks too clear and it looks almost stilted. Do you know what I mean? And I'd never seen that before. And the first time I ever saw it happened to be the Lost finale, which is unfortunate for me.
Which I've never seen. So don't
okay, I won't. But not only it wasn't great, but it also looked so bizarre to me. It was like watching film theater.
You have to calibrate your TV better.
Okay, it was just at somebody else's TV.
Yeah, because as soon as we got ours at my place, we immediately calibrated it so it looks like what movies are supposed to look like. It's got that weird motion thing.
And people
for sports.
Yeah, people feel like they're in front.
Like. See, I never understand it, but Dave is so anal about it that before we start any film, he looks at the box and then he goes over and changes the aspect ratio on the television, and I never even know how it works.
You only watch films like 20 minutes here.
In chunks.
No, but I was going to say, I saw The Pact like that, and that could have been
Elric.
Swear to Jesus. Swear all you like. This is going to help you here. Okay. Hey, we have a topic today.
We do.
Yes, and
we do have
Sean
a topic.
is going to write into that.
Yeah, and after 45 minutes, you'll never guess what it is.
Yes.
Yeah, that's just kind of left field, actually.
Not anything we were going to talk about.
No, it's kind of cool. I will set it up. Our topic is gateway horror, which means, if you listen to our very first episode, Elric, myself, and Rebekah had kind of talked a little bit about how we got into horror, and we'll touch upon that again. But what fascinates me is, I'll be candid. I'm not a big fan of kids. Sorry to say. However,
You have a black heart, Rob.
I have a black heart, and I never want any kids myself. But the two kids I adore are Sean Keller's kids, and it's fun. Well, and yours.
Oh, come on.
Yours
Your
are
kids
too
aren't-
young.
But I just got a text from Drew Daywalt, and he seems outraged.
Listen, his
I
are
know.
like
Mine's
little
just a
young
little
adults.
drooling
I can't
ball
talk.
of
I can't
goo.
talk to your kids yet. Give me like 5 years, and we'll be buddies. All right. But no, the point being is, I love the way that it's fun revisiting a lot of these films that we grew up with, films that we love, through the eyes of Sean's kids, getting to see them see it for the first time. How old are they now?
My eldest is 16 and the other boy is 10. So I have two boys, 16 and 10.
Oh my God! All right.
Yeah, I know.
So, and he's
The
been
real
shown.
horror just
and the
began.
thing is, Sean is. I mean, everyone has a different, idea of when it's okay to watch horror. And I actually want to know from both of you, since you both have children that are very, very young, when you think you're gonna start
Show
showing
them
stuff.
martyrs. When are you going to show them martyrs?
The thing, unlike most parents, Sean has never ever censored either of his kids with horror. Like Clay, I remember I knew Clay when he was like 6 or 7, and you were showing him some pretty bizarre. I mean, you were asking him, like, "What are your favorite movies, Clay?" And he's like, "Exorcist 3, The Omen." And I'm like, "He's 6. What's
How
going on?"
did your wife feel about that initially? Did you have to convince her, or what was that?
I think what happened was early on with our eldest, I just had sort of thrown down the gauntlet. Like, I'm not going to let having kids screw up my viewing, and just being like a selfish turd.
Right.
And I remember sitting around, and my eldest was 5 years old, and we were watching 6 Feet Under. And there was a scene where David goes down on his boyfriend, and my boy asked me, "What's he doing, Dad?" And I said, "Well, he's putting his mouth on that other guy's penis and he's like, "Well, why?" I said, "Because it feels awesome." As it's called oral sex, some people call it a blowjob, but it feels really good. Well, what does it feel like? I said, well, like when you get
We
held
just
down,
lost 2 more spots.
when someone holds you down and tickles you until you can't like breathe anymore. He's like, yeah. It's like, it's kind of like that. He goes, okay. and that was sort of the parenting breakthrough moment where I'm like, wait, if I'm actually just honest with my children and talk to them like a person and not like a thing that I'm trying to protect, they respond immediately and they ask questions, and we've got an open dialogue. I can talk about anything with my children.
Yeah, that's cool.
And I mean, I can attest, they're like super sharp. They're the sharpest kids that I know. They're like,
But you didn't know that. Like, that's the interesting. When parenting's going into a black hole and you don't know what's coming next. So.
It's a science experiment. You put in input and you get output. You get it's a lifelong science experiment. You can monkey with it however.
That's why I asked. Well, that's why I asked though. How did your wife? What did she say in that conversation? Like,
she was a little
did she
cringy,
agree?
and she was
Okay.
like, "Why did you do that like that?" And I said, "Well, I grew up repressed. You grew up repressed. Let's not do that to our kids." She's like, "Okay."
Right. Yeah.
And
that
what
was it.
What was
Wow.
some of the first, what were the first horror movies that, because obviously you write horror. So it's
Yeah.
like, well, look, this is what Daddy does for a living. So you might as well watch it. But for example, like I remember going with Clay. Clay watched horror movies at home. That's his youngest. But his first theatrical experience was the Evil Dead trilogy, which we all went to together.
He was
because you felt like
7.
he's seen these movies enough. Now he can handle these on the big screen because he's seen them a bunch.
Does he flinch?
And he
Does
loved
he
it.
freak
He
out?
loved
when
it.
he-
Oh, of course he flinches because
Yeah, 'cause
he's
that's
having
what-
fun. He's like,
that's meant to be.
and then he wanted it. It's like, let's watch Drag Me to Hell afterward. Like we finished all 3, and he's like, let's watch Evil Dead 4. So he was on fire from that point on. I've not been able to stop the boy. My eldest wasn't nearly as enthusiastic, but I started him off, on Universal.
How did
Universal.
the eldest feel about the remake? Did he like it?
He liked it.
See, that's what I thought would happen if he didn't like it. Feels like it would make sense that way.
He thought it was really cool. I mean,
If it was
I
new
took
to you.
him the night that we all went.
Yeah. And what's just funny, because me, him, and his eldest went to see the Nightmare on Elm Street remake. And of course, we walked out like angry. And Sean's like, this isn't for us. It's for guys like him. And I'm like, Foley, I hope you know better, right? He's like, oh, yeah, it's awful. I'm like, all right, you're a smart kid.
Yeah,
Okay.
he was like 12 years old walking out of the film going,
he's like, no.
That one's obvious,
He's
yeah.
like, no, it's not as good as the original. We're like, all right,
I've
you're
raised
raising your kids right.
total snobs. They're such snobs.
funny.
So that's definitely the detriment. That's the downside. They're food snobs. They're movie snobs. It's terrible.
I like that,
So
though.
you say Universal. I mean, I think that's true because that's the first thing my first experience as far back as I can remember was the Universal monster movies on TV. They were always on. I remember like Creature Creature from the Black Lagoon, and there's a promotion like, go get the 3D glasses at 7-Eleven for Creature. And of course I wanted them. So those are the first memories I have. And none of those scared me. I really like the Universal monsters, just like fascinating. I wanted to draw them, and I just kind of like related to the monsters in those for some reason.
So was Nightmare the first one that scared you?
Yes.
Wow.
Yeah. The first real movie was like Nightmare at around 10, and that was because my cousins forced me to see it.
I never saw the Universal films until much, much later. Like, like I was in college, and then I was like, maybe I should watch these because they seem like classics.
So what were the first ones for you?
It was definitely things that you wouldn't even picture as horror movies. Like I gravitated towards the more horrific side really young, where like I really early wanted to tape Halloween episodes, and I would watch them over and over and over, like the Mickey Mouse Halloween special and things like that. And I really loved the Ghostbusters cartoon and Scooby-Doo. And,
I was going to say that was my number one gateway.
Yeah.
I think because
cartoons?
Scooby-Doo. Specifically Scooby-Doo, because I loved everything about it. And I think that slowly led into that. And then later on, I remember really well the Friday 13th TV show.
Yep, that was a big one for
I remember
me too.
just loving it, not knowing what I loved about it. I don't think I'd seen the movies at that point.
Yeah.
I think it came a little later. But just loving, it's a doll episode. It's a, and just getting into that whole, probably Twilight Zone around
And
there.
I have to say, for me, my parents were big sci-fi nerds. Well, my mom is a big sci-fi nerd. And so my parents always were watching Star Trek and Outer Limits and Twilight Zone. And those definitely had enough horror elements in them that my parents noticed early on that I really liked the scary episodes more than the, I broke my glasses episodes. So, they would push me more towards those. But I also came from a completely uncensored household. I was never told what I couldn't watch. I was never told what I couldn't do. I never had a curfew. If I wanted to drink a beer when I was 14, I could sit on my couch and drink a beer.
Wow.
I was never restricted from anything. As long as I had good grades, that was the only rule in my house, was I had to have straight A's. And I was not restricted from anything.
Now, see, I've got like 10 years on all of you. And so you talk about like, taping stuff. Like I grew up before that. I grew up with the 4 o'clock movie. I had kind of strict parents, and I had to go to bed early, so I wasn't up late doing anything. I had the horror of like a 7:30 bedtime, even until I was like 9-10 years old. So like summertime, July, my friends are outside my window playing, come on, play, and it's like sunny out, and I'm like, I gotta go to bed. But and I had older sisters and a younger sister and a mom, and my dad was working all the time, so it was like this female dominated household. And the only time I could ever get to the TV was right after soap operas ended, and right when mom was starting to put food on the table for dinner and stuff. And so I'd catch these 4 o'clock movies in Kansas City, where I was growing up young, and that's where I saw The Blob.
Nice.
Oh,
and The Blob ruined me. I'd never been so horrified in all of my life. I was 4 years old, going on 5, and realized that it could get in anywhere. Like, my door isn't airtight. My window, it's it's gonna get me. It's gonna get me. Like, lost my mind, but I wanted to see it again.
Freezer.
And yeah, exactly. I can go to the freezer. We don't have a big freezer. We've got a big one, but if it seals down, I'll die in there. I know. I've already been told don't play in the freezer. And I didn't have that like joy of being able to revisit on video for like a decade. And so in my mind, it kept getting worse.
Yeah, it was like
worse
the
and worse. So there's like
ever.
skeletons floating in the goo, and I could see flesh melting. Like, my imagination took over because there was no opportunity to see it again.
Yeah.
And so I grew up with those. Those were how I got into genre flicks, because it was that, and it was like, Mothra. Because I don't, and Gamera and stuff like that. Those were always on the 4 o'clock movies. When I moved to DC area when I was a kid, the WTTG Channel 5 had a 4 o'clock movie for a while, and they did like Apes Week. Yeah. And so you'd see all the Planet of the Apes movies, or
best episode of Mad Men last season was he took his kid to Planet of the Apes, and it's one of the best scenes I've ever seen in a TV show. Nothing happens. He's just taking his son to a Planet of the Apes. The way the reaction shot of them when the movie ends, like, whoa. Wow. Like, their minds have just been blown by a film.
The second one, Beneath the Planet of the Apes, is like maybe my favorite movie of all time.
That's cool.
Because it's just, it mixes all the awesomeness of having Planet of the Apes with like nuclear mutants and Chuck Heston blowing up the world. It's so great.
Where I lived, we never had movies like this on at 4:00. We had like Rescue Rangers and DuckTales and things like that. But maybe it was just Kansas City, because my husband, as you know, is from like right around Kansas City, and he always talks about how he watched kung fu films in the afternoons when he got home from school.
They have chop socky stuff too.
He always watched Shaw Brother films, and I'm like, we never got that crap.
One thing I think we're hitting on, though, is I think the age of 5. I think there's something about just around 5 seems to be. If you see something, for me, that wasn't gateway. That's scarring. Like I saw Creepshow at 5, and it just fucked me up.
Wow.
Gave me nightmares for years and years and years until I was able to start watching these movies more regularly, and that's when I started actually getting into it. But that one wasn't a gateway. It just was something that haunted me and scared me.
The movies you see between the ages of like 12 and 15, those are the ones you love for life.
Yeah.
They're there forever. The ones you see that F you up at 5, they're like, oh wow, I still
especially if you weren't meant to see it. And I think you weren't meant to see The Blob. I wasn't meant to see. If you're not meant to see that and you somehow see it, it messes with you because you don't have a parent there to walk you through it afterwards and go, hey, how did that feel? And don't be scared of this.
And to go to the effed up side of this, I showed my children Martyrs. I sat down and watched it with them. When Clay was 7 and Folsom was 12, and we sat down and watched the whole movie. And I'm one of those few people who actually really likes the film, but primarily because I got to sit there with my kids and they go, what was that? And then we sit around and talk theology for like an hour and a half afterward. Yeah. And so when you open up that kind of channel of communication, it's fantastic. So the best advice I can give to any parent is be honest with your children. Tell them about sex and drugs and death and everything else, because children are way more resilient than adults. Yeah. Children bounce back way faster than grown-ups do from any kind of torture or trauma or anything else. They know in their heart that as long as you're there telling them that it's okay, it's safe. It's when they're experiencing it through their friends or in the unsafe area, like where they're alone and digging through stuff because it's taboo, that I think it's way more deeply affecting. And there's benefits to being scarred young.
Yeah. Well, we're all at this table, aren't we? So.
But I love the fact that I've raised kids who dig it and they ask questions. Like they're really into what a horror movie means, not just what it was. That's why my eldest was Leslie Vernon for Halloween a couple years ago, because we sat down and watched that, and he was like, wow, that made like Jason smarter. I'm like, yes, it did, didn't it? It's like, it didn't make Jason smarter. It made like The Prowler and The Burning and everything else smarter. It's something that elevates the genre, and then they get it because we talk about it.
Maybe that's something that's different, because I didn't get scarred. My parents discovered my love of horror, that I was gravitated towards things like Scooby-Doo and Ghostbusters, and then said, okay, let's give her one step. And so my parents were actually going out renting me films, and I got things like Watcher in the Woods and Something Wicked This Way Comes and The Halloween Tree and films like this they're very horror light.
Clayton's reading The Halloween Tree right now.
Such a great film, movie, everything. And eventually, and I don't even think it was supposed to be scary, but I recall Return to Oz being one of the things that kind of freaked me out as a kid. But not enough to stop me from my horror lust, just enough. And I remember I watched Monster Squad ridiculously young. And so these were the things that my parents, because they controlled the media in the house. They picked what videos I got to watch at the video store. The Black Hole, things like this.
Yeah, Black Hole.
That would creep me out a little bit, actually. I remember.
When I saw really young, and it really stuck with me because it looked so unnatural, and it's funny now to think back to it, was the colorized version of Night of the Living Dead. I saw that before I saw the and it was on TV. And I remember it kind of messed with my head because they don't look right. This weird green skin and bright pink shirt. And I remember that's the one I saw on TV, and that was close to the gateway time. That's when I started watching the things. In New Zealand, they had a thing called the Sunday Night Horrors, and it would come out Sunday, and I had to sneak down and see that. And that was when I started to love it, but I still was scared. I was a kid, and I'd be curious to hear about all you. Like, I know I've talked to Drew about it.
With this kind of stuff?
Probably like 8, 8 to 12. That's when I really got into the stuff. But at that point, I would love watching them. I'd always be by myself, but I was still really scared. Like, I'm never scared of people, never scared of violence, scared of the dark. I'm scared of the dark. I still, to this day, probably a part of me is still scared. But I've talked to Drew about this before, because he says he's a big scaredy cat too, but it's really true. It's like, I never felt that comfortable alone in a house, because it's kind of fucking creepy. Oh, yeah. I could walk down the street in Harlem and be like, yeah, whatever. It's just life. Life doesn't scare me like that. Weirdly enough, it makes no sense. It should. Real life should scare us. Never has really. It's a funny thing.
I'm with you in that regard.
Yeah.
Wow.
When I walk around at night, I don't like worry about someone hurting me. I worry about me hurting someone. I've got sort of that Wolfman mentality. I'm like, am I going to freak out and hurt someone tonight? So the real life doesn't scare me, but laying in my bed late at night
especially after a movie like The Pact or
I'm reading House of Leaves right now.
Oh yeah, that looks interesting.
Unnerving.
Huge book, yeah.
It's a huge tome, but I'm only a little bit into it. But I'm like, I got a little wigged out reading it the other night, and I always sleep with feet hanging out of the bed. I'm one of those. I'm like, I'm just hot all the time, and I'm like, oop, can't tuck my feet in.
Yeah,
and I'm like, I'm gonna sweat. It's a little hot, and I'm gonna sweat because I'm
because the two
out tonight.
That makes sense because the two things that just scared me to death when I was a kid, I did not get from a horror film. I was scared of nuclear attack,
the day after.
Which came from The Day After.
That movie broke me.
Because my parents, and I mean, my parents never stopped me from watching anything. I really wanted to watch The Day After because I'd seen Steve Guttenberg in all of the Police Academy movies. And my parents were very...
I love that that's your movie.
What about the YMCA movie where he put together all the team members of the YMCA on the roller skates and he quits? I love that.
And my parents held off on letting me watch nuclear Holocaust movies for a long time. Like that was the one genre that I was not allowed to really watch. Because like After the Rain and movies like this, I wanted to watch, and like even Omega Man, my parents like wouldn't let me watch at a young age. These like Holocausty movies, but
so they did censor you
a little bit. But if like with that one, like I was begging to watch it, and Mom was like, "Okay, but Dad and I have to watch it with you." Was always the concession. Dad and Mom had to watch it with me. Most of the time they didn't. They just sent me to my room. Here's the tape. Go. But they would watch it with me, or they'd put me in the playroom, and I'd think I was alone. But they were popping.
Can I have a timeout for Super Nanny? I want to ask him something. Super Nanny, is that when they were sending her to the room with the tape? Would that be not so wise? Do you think we should watch these things with them and talk about them afterwards, or could we send them to the room?
It would depend
at a super young age.
It
like
depends if it's something that you've seen and know what they're going to come up to you with. But I think there's some amazing bonding thing you get when you watch it with your kid. If you can get them trained to sit still, which is really one of the keys. But by doing that and like asking questions throughout, because if it's a movie you've seen, you can do that and not fucking ruin your enjoyment of it. I'm like, fine, no problem. Go watch whatever you want. I don't care because they know how to deal with it. But early on, I would definitely want to watch everything.
My parents made me watch Revenge of the Nerds with them. I remember I really wanted to see that one, and because it had the horror stuff, my parents were fine with. But because Revenge of the Nerds had like full frontal nudity, I had to watch it with them so they could explain it to me.
You've got Bush.
And I asked questions, and my parents explained everything that was going on in that film
favorite
to me. And there was another one that we watched called Love Lines.
Just keep going. Keep talking.
We're just going to keep talking.
This is just reference. Clearly, this is a popular film in this room.
Wow. But no, my parents always made me sit down and watch stuff with them. But what the fuck was I talking about?
I don't know.
I think you said something about Omega Moo.
It was The Day After.
The Day After. I was talking about the two things that scared me were nuclear Holocaust, and the second one was Satanists, which I did not get from horror films. I got from everyone in my neighborhood, and I grew up in a very small southern town, who was all very scared of Satanists because
religious,
it was always like, oh my gosh, the kids at the school listening to the AC/DC, they're all Satanists with messages.
This is Satanic Panic.
Right around the early
House of the Devil
80s.
type period.
And they were doing these things in school where they wouldn't let us wear concert t-shirts. And I was in elementary school at the time, and we had classes telling us why the pentagram was bad and what it meant and everything. Because this is a very small Christian southern town, and my parents were not Christian. We never went to church or anything, but I was still getting this kind of, here's what you need to look out for at school. And so I was scared, just shitless of Satanists. And I know. And I did not watch a Satanist movie until like much, much later. And by that time it was like Satanists are kind of funny because, it's.
Now see, I grew up Catholic, and part of that sort of love of gore comes from sitting in church and looking up at that like gorgeous half-naked bleeding man with an orgiastic look on his face. I mean, it sends wonderfully perverse messages to a child.
That's true. I mean, I was fast. That was like
you sit there and stare at it because you're bored in mass. So like, I'm just going to look at the crucifix, and it was always like the most wonderfully wrought, weird, orgiastic look, that religious ecstasy on Christ's face with the blood on the sides and the
Well,
hands.
it's like what happened to him? Like I'm sitting there, I'm a little tiny kid, and they're like trying to teach me about whatever, and I'm just like, wait, they like put stakes like that must have hurt. Like I just like I was so sensitive, and I'm like staring at this statue, thinking like, why do people do that to each other?
He was
it's such
like,
a
bring
terrible
it.
thing.
That's the crazy part. He's like, bring it.
Yeah. I've never admitted this
Crown
to
of
anyone
Thorns?
before,
Yeah.
but
Oh my God.
my babysitter used to have this like Bible picture book. And I'd never read the Bible. I don't know my Bible stories very well, but there was a picture in it of this man's decapitated head on a platter.
St. John the Baptist.
Thank you. Okay. Decapitated head on the platter. And the blood was stylized so that it was like pouring down the page around the letters. And it was the most fascinating picture in the book to me.
It was, yeah. I mean, I got so deep into Catholicism that I was considering priesthood for a while.
Wow.
And I've since done quite the 180 and embracing, like have basically an atheist house. But
Like Buñuel, Buñuel was like that too.
Yeah,
I always find some people who are really extreme almost went the other way.
Yeah.
And I think that's fascinating.
I was right there on the line.
Yeah.
I'm like, no.
Yeah.
So The Exorcist and The Omen and things like that really affected me as a kid. Those really bothered me. And what I find fascinating is that my youngest, those are his favorite films. He finds the satanic stuff terrifying, and he has never gone to church. He's never been a part of any of this. I've raised them heavily on mythology, so they understand mythology of every religion. We talk about every religion all the time.
You mean like you worship Zeus and stuff?
Yeah, my eldest claims to worship Ra because he knows that'll
Sun
get a
god,
rise out of anyone.
I prefer Pan the goat god, but it's cool.
Yeah, the Folsom's definitely gone more Satan lately. He's like, screw you, I'm going full Satan.
For those of you guys who, I guess
weren't in this room?
who weren't in this room.
Because this is going to be
Crazy fucked up
instantaneous.
shit just happened.
The last
here.
line was, "My son worships Satan," and then it was
We're not exaggerating. Everything went out.
the entire
The whole
studio went
lights,
black.
everything.
That
was pretty exciting.
Freaky.
That is
That
totally
was probably the
freaky,
creepiest
guys.
thing so
My
far.
eyes didn't glow right. They didn't glow right.
Did anybody
making sure
like?
the
I think your
Stayed in
son
place.
did.
Nobody smelled brimstone or anything.
No, that was pretty weird.
Was
though.
that as creepy as Darren Bellsman's story last week? Or
I
was that
think-
creepier?
I think this was creepier because it happened to us.
Yeah.
Well, if
that's
this
true.
had happened in the
It
middle of the
wasn't
show,
as
but-
creepy as much ass as you kissed on the Dean Cundy episode.
We knew that was coming.
I'll kiss his ass any day.
He's worth
man's a
ass
god,
kissing, but
right?
come on. He told the exact same jokes on the Fog Blu-ray, and you were like,
And they were funnier here because we heard them first here.
Yeah, he's like Santa.
Seriously, guys.
I'll laugh at every joke Santa makes.
I think I compared him to my grandfather before the show started. Like, you can't, not laugh at your
The man's a
grandfather's
living
jokes.
legend, okay? We
Yeah.
will laugh at every joke he
That
makes.
that was still really creepy, guys.
So
Yeah.
satanic
Yeah.
panic aside, and Rob had asked us before because we all marvel at what you've done because I've heard that as well. I don't know. The weird thing about a small child, like say 2, mine's 2.5, is that they have this crazy innocence and you've seen everything and you've been scarred and you've done whatever. And there's moments where you look at them and go, oh, the last thing I want to do is freak them out. Yeah, the last thing I want to do is spoil that for now. It's going to get spoiled anyway. But right now, at 2.5, I wouldn't even dream of anything. I would introduce them. He watches this cool little cartoon that has all the spooky characters, witches, cats, and he's really into it and singing it. So he's already getting the iconography of Halloween down.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
I think
the
he's
most
going to
important.
enjoy it. Yeah. But the last thing you would want them is to freak out about, to be truly scared. The kind of scared that really screws you
Well,
up.
it's
at
funny,
this age too, they don't get truly
Yeah,
scared
they
because they
don't
don't
get
have that true concept of self. They don't have that
Yeah.
true concept of everything outside of them. So you can introduce crazy weird things to
And
them
they
right
wouldn't
now,
know, yeah.
and they're unfazed. You
I'm
know,
watching Walking Dead and he doesn't even blink. He just walks past.
They
He
don't
doesn't
have
get it.
any. It's not going to register because it doesn't
Connect.
have any bearing to their
Yeah,
life.
it doesn't connect you.
Oh, yeah.
so-
I was describing a film that I wanted to shoot, the plot in front of Dash
Yeah,
this
yeah,
afternoon.
yeah.
And I looked at Selena and I was like, I hope he doesn't understand this.
They
And then
don't.
it dawned on me. I was like, no, he doesn't have
These
any
kids
of the
don't get it.
markers that would make him understand what we're talking
Yeah,
about.
but I mean, weird. As this is going to sound weird, maybe no, probably not. But even this conversation will probably affect what I end up doing because I don't know. I don't. And one thing when I had a kid is I never wanted to read any of the books on child rearing.
Yeah.
My wife was reading all these books, and I was just like, I don't want to read anything. I want to literally just be in the moment, see what happens. And it might be lethargic or lazy on my part, but I do feel like influence from other parents and people who I respect. Matt Curry Holmes, I've always liked the way he will talk. They'll watch a movie and then they'll talk about Creature from the Black
I
Lagoon.
love
They'll
watching
talk about the
movies with
design
him
of the
and Calliope.
costume
Yeah.
to his daughter, and
How
how
old
that's
is this kid?
interesting.
She's 7.
Seven.
But he's
And
been
she's
doing that for a
awesome.
while, I think. He's
she comes over to my house and she looks at my DVDs and she's like, I would like to watch this one, Father. And he will look at it and say, like, now this one has blankety blank. And then they'll decide together whether or not she wants to watch it. And it's very mature and open-minded.
The part where she said "father" just creeped me.
Sorry.
Your voice and father, mother, may I? But no, I mean, I think it's
sounding.
good.
Yeah.
Well, do you
It's
have-
influential.
I mean, I've never been to your place. So I don't know. Do you collect like anything, any like memorabilia or stuff like that that has like horror?
Yeah, I mean, well, I have my the bartender from Shining signed photo, and I have Eyes Without a Face, and I have posters in my little office space.
But nothing with drippy blood or gore or anything along those lines that they look at, that Dash is going to look at and go, Dad, what the hell's that?
Maybe not. I mean, the DVDs, but not
but
pictures.
you
No, the
would
kind
look
of
at-
pictures. I to be honest, I don't like looking at those anyway. Like I do tend to prefer artistic posters, photos. I like the ones that I would like to look at, like art, rather than like just typical
Right.
an axe
Well,
and a
I-
head.
I
Doesn't really.
I only bring it up because
I do have a Pieces poster, but it's not on my wall.
That's a good find.
It's a good
Shockwave's poster up. I
do have
love
the-
that
I
one.
had them
Shockwave's
I
too.
keep them for Jumpka because that's fun. It's a fun place to put them. But
Yeah. No, what's fun is because my boss at FEARnet, Lawrence Raffle, his kid's 2 or 3 now.
2. We were talking
2.5,
about it, yeah.
He's 2, and Lawrence has like a whole office in his house that's every like action figure and like a life-size gremlin and like all these posters and stuff like that. And his kid is totally fascinated. Like he'll walk in the room and he's not totally scared. And there's just something drawing to him to these images, to these action figures.
Oh, yeah.
And he actually just showed us a video from about a week or 2 ago of Lawrence like laid out all his action figures. And he's like, all right, Max, go ahead. And apparently this is something that he likes to do. He's like, who's that? And he's like, Jason, Freddy, Michael. Like, he'll point at them and he can identify the killers, even though he doesn't know that they're killers yet. He doesn't know, but there's something about them that's fascinating because he's seeing them in, I guess, action figure form. And
they're not
it's more
killers,
like
they're
a game.
characters.
Yeah, they're characters.
let's
There you
remember
go.
that they're fictional characters that we can really have fun with.
Fictional characters.
It's not like Gacy,
No,
Dahmer,
yeah,
Bundy.
that'd be a
There's a
little
big
weird.
difference, and
Twisted.
I think that's important to that conversation too.
No, of
Like
course.
you could talk to a kid and be like, "This is a fictional thing. This is fun. This is ritual. There's a
Yeah,
ritual
yeah,
that we
yeah.
enjoy watching." Whereas when you get to Bundy, you have to go, "This is your next door neighbor. This is
Yeah.
truly terrifying.
Yeah.
This is someone
That's
who."
later.
That's just
it's
that I wouldn't tell her. That's an
Right.
interesting point. Like I would, Marnie will tell me when she's ready to watch horror films, but if she wants to watch a serial killer movie, that's something that I would, especially if it's based on a real life story, that's something I would resist showing her for a really long time.
Well, there aren't a lot of
Until
good ones.
she's ready.
It's more the true. It's reading about them.
Yeah.
That's really that. I was a big true. That's one of my gateways. We talk about gateways was true crime fiction. I was studying to be a criminologist for the longest time. I was totally obsessed with true crime.
That was later in life, though.
Well, it's from
when
like
you're
12.
young.
12, 13. I got into true crime and more than I would read Stephen King stuff. I was reading that kind of stuff. All those Bundy, the Stranger Beside Me and stuff. And that stuff, it's just incredibly dark.
What about like
There's
Tales from
incredibly
the
dark
Crypt, like comics? Like
Oh, yeah.
EC
EC
those are
stuff.
good.
Is that stuff that you guys
a
kinda
little
got
less
into?
for me. I think it was I don't think it existed in New Zealand, to be honest. I don't think that comic side, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And also maybe generationally it was a little late.
I didn't
I
hit-
discovered a cache of my uncle's EC comics in my grandparents' house when I was, I think, 8 or 9.
Oh, wow.
And was floored. Just
Yeah.
like really fell in love. I when I found them, I knew I found something dirty.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Too.
They
So
smell
like,
like forbidden
I wasn't
fruit.
supposed to find it. I was digging around in a closet where I probably should have been digging around. And I saw them and I swiped one of them and felt terrible about it. I'm like, oh, I stole something from my uncle. Like, my uncle moved out 10 years ago. Nobody knows the stuff there. But I swiped a copy. Actually, that wasn't an EC. It was a Twisted Tales. The Bernie Wrightson one with the heads on like the rope around some guy's waist, which that story isn't even in the comic, but the cover was just, oh my God, it was so it was so
I will say
lurid.
my first comic was I went down to the local store like 6 years old and I could buy anything I want. My first comic I ever bought, and it was Ghost Rider 1, and I still have it.
Wow.
And the image of a human flesh face, just like Indiana Jones, burning it was incredible.
Yeah.
Like, it was just hypnotic.
Yeah,
and
like, oh my
that's why
God.
when you see the movie with Nick, unfortunately, unfortunately they didn't make a good one out of that. But it wasn't Nick's fault. It's just a bad film. But it's like, you want that horror. I would want somebody to pitch that as a horror movie before they pitch it as a superhero movie. Hey, it's a horror film and it's kind of a superhero.
Yeah.
Rather than it's a superhero movie and if it's all beautiful blossoms and oh my God, the cinematography. But that was an interesting comic. It kind of messed me up.
My gateway comic. I didn't get into comics till high school. I think largely because of kind of the environment that I grew up in. Like, I was much more interested in Barbies, and then in middle school I was interested in boys and giggling and doing my makeup. And then when I got into high school was when I really
I have an interest in giggling too.
I was way into glitter. But no, I always had my love of horror films that I watched even when I was a kid. And it wasn't until I was in high school that I was kind of like, okay, you know what? I am a geek. That I actually started purchasing things to correspond with that interest, not just renting movies. And the first comics that I really got into were the Hellbound Heart comics, the versions of Hellraiser that
they were
continued.
good. Those graphic novels,
they were amazing, and there were
Painted.
so many of those that were better than the movies that they made later. And
Yeah,
I'm
there
like,
was.
why don't you guys just pull, from these? Because like they would go into war. There was one that was absolutely amazing that was about the clown who was forced to perform to the unbaptized children in hell. And there was one
That's
where
a Jerry Lewis film. That's a wink at just geeks.
Yeah,
who
there
know
was
about
just-
that.
there are just so many stories in
That's
these that
Cinefamily
were
this
just
weekend, right?
amazing.
Right, there you
Oh, really? Is it?
Well, it's a long story that Jerry Lewis wanted to make a film about a clown who had to make people laugh at a concentration camp, and it was
Yeah.
his big
He
like.
did.
Yeah, he
What is
did.
it?
Didn't
Butterflies?
quite-
Something about butterflies?
No, the Day the Clown Laughed.
The Day the Clown Laugh. That's it.
Something like that.
Yeah. So, but yeah, those were definitely my gateway drug. And then I really got into the Tales from the Crypt comic books. And I really liked Erie was kind of my weapon of choice.
Erie,
with
Indiana?
those.
Love Erie. No,
Erie, Indiana,
comics.
I loved his. That was one of like my horror gateways as
Yeah, that
a
was
kid, I would
fun,
definitely say. But yeah, Erie Comics.
Well,
I
you know who the
totally
ultimate
dug.
gateway director in a weird, besides Monster Squad and stuff, is Joe Dante. Because
Dante.
he was able to
Mhm.
do horror elements also with a lot of comedy and a lot of kind of a kid feel. Like Matinee is actually not, surprisingly, even though Matinee is about being a kid, I think it's actually one of the ones that skews older. You have to be a bit older to appreciate Matinee.
Mm-hmm.
But
to understand the artifice of a William Castle film in order to appreciate
get what he's doing.
Yeah.
But Gremlins and The Burbs, all these
Even
things
his
are
new
just
one,
so
The
fun.
Hole. I mean, it's definitely
Yeah.
My boys
a
love The Hole.
tweens movie.
Yeah,
so.
it's good.
Yeah.
It's got that vibe
Yeah.
to it for sure.
They really
I think
like
that's
The
why
Hole.
people still love him. Like his films and his humor stayed with us from that age to now.
Now, I have a niece whose parents aren't quite as into it, which is hilarious because they were such freaks before they got married and had kids. But she has this attraction repulsion to horror that is out of this world. She comes over and I'm Uncle Sean with the scary stuff. And so she wants to hear all the scary stuff. And then I hear from my sister and brother-in-law about how she's not sleeping at night. And but she was so proud of herself. She's 9. That just last year she made it all the way through Gremlins. And that made her so happy. That's like, I love it. Because, she loves the Munsters and the Addams Family. Because now in this Netflix age, kids get to sit around and watch.
Addams Family.
The Addams Family and the Munsters, which I highly recommend you start
Yes.
showing to your children right now. Because they'll just fall in love with the images.
Right.
And also learn an appreciation for black and white
Yes.
imagery. My kids can sit and watch silent films with me now because we do that. On Sunday evenings, TCM has silent movies, and if we're lucky, it'll be a Lon Chaney, and we'll get to watch, The Unholy Three, or
Unholy's one of my favorite
The
films.
Unknown, or West of Zanzibar, which is, I think, my favorite. The Unknown.
Yeah, The Unknown with
it's
the-
tough.
The Unknown's good.
But
The
she
two
didn't want-
thumbs.
She just didn't want him to touch her.
It's okay. I like being touched now.
Yeah. That's so funny.
Almost, but I mean, have you seen West of Zanzibar?
I haven't seen West of
I
Oh
haven't
my God.
seen that one either.
Is that the one where he's tortured? The torture, yeah.
Yeah. Oh my God. The reveal it's the same kind of reveal, but the twisted emotions you see go through Lon Chaney's face at that end is even more excruciating than in The Unknown. He goes through this series of emotions so fast and in that awesome pantomime style that he does.
Yeah, he's a very emotional actor. Like the most
my favorite.
emotional any ending of any film ever got me in my whole life was Laugh Clown Laugh. And it's just he's a heartbreaking actor. And if you watch, and one of the best documentaries you'll ever see in your life is made a few years ago, was the Lon Chaney story or whatever it was. It was like 3.5 hours, just breathtaking. He was the son of a mute and a deaf His mother was deaf and his father was mute.
Yep.
So he grew up in that world, and look what became this
He had to
incredible
pantomime to
just incredible.
get
Like
them to
really
understand what he wants.
Really, it's probably one of my favorite things I've ever seen in my life was the documentary.
Where's it on that
It
documentary?
was. I saw it in a theater, so it was released briefly.
It's part of the Lon Chaney box set
with
that's
the
out
unknown
now.
and everything. TCM,
Oh.
but it's its own movie, and it also has a great sequence on the Lost film London After Midnight. So you see
Which
a lot
shows
of
how it's better off lost. On Lost.
probably, yeah.
But yeah, I mean,
But he's an
as,
incredible performer.
as
you
an
know?
actor, he's my
Just, yeah.
acting icon. There's two
Yeah.
acting icons I have because one is all about craft, and that's Lon Chaney, and the other one is all about just being freewheeling, and that's Warren Oates. And so I like. I
Warren
try
Oates
to.
is my other favorite
love
actor.
Warren
I try to approach
He's like my
whenever I'm
favorite
acting. I try to approach everything that I'm doing as like, all right, how would Lon Chaney do it first, and then like, how can I Warren Oates up this Lon
Yeah.
Chaney performance and make it naturalistic? And so
We found my replacement in the show. I thought it was going to be AJ. I thought it was going to be Ryan Collins, but it's clearly Sean.
Yeah.
I like the Warren Oates mention.
I'd like to interrupt.
I'll allow it.
Raise
Has
up the
any of
devil.
you seen Possession?
Yeah.
Oh my God! Nobody mentioned it until now.
Yeah.
Fucking all now,
have seen
Elric, when are you going to show your kid Possession? That's what I really want to know.
That's what we need. That's got a lot
When are you
of...
going to show me Possession? I've never seen this film.
I've
It's
got
got a
it.
lot
Oh my
of
God.
monster humping
Hey,
in
let's do
it.
a jump cut. Actually, there's
should do it.
this
I haven't seen it
weird.
either.
Are
There's
you
a weird
serious?
behind the
You guys
scenes.
have never seen Possession? Okay,
No.
look,
Yeah.
I'm not quite the Possession junkie that Elric is, but I will.
To be honest.
I do
Have either
say
of you sent a copy to Cody yet?
She's,
It's
I'm going to.
amazing,
Dear
amazing
Cody,
film.
if you're listening, I've been moving and I don't even have my thing to burn things. So
Not-
Cody, I'm going
not
to
a
still
valid
say
excuse.
it is in my top 10. I would definitely put it in
Of
my top
all
10
time?
of all time.
Holy
I'll go
smokes.
further than that and say it's almost my number one because I think about it more. I don't watch it a lot. I only saw it once in the last 20 years and then saw it again with her recently in theaters.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't really even want to go there because I had such
Yes.
memories of it. It is Kramer vs. Kramer with the giant penis monster giving birth to the Antichrist. There's a lot going on in that film.
It is
And
intense.
And,
Wow.
and it just, it's also just performance stuff with Sam Neill.
it's the
People
performance, to
elevated
be honest.
performances that
the
are.
monster is done by Carlos Rambaldi,
Rambaldi's.
and it's pretty much the same monster from Cameron's Closet. He just kind of gave it the action to dry hump. And,
Yeah, but it's all written like during the director's intense divorce, and he
Yeah.
and he was
And
already
so-
in the most his films are so visually like haunting and strange, and you can't quite work out where he's going. It's just one of the few films that this is the thing people always go, oh, I'm scared this film's getting remade. It's going to take away you. Good luck.
yeah, there's,
Go remake Possession. Good luck.
There's no
you
way.
can't
You
even
can't do
touch
it.
on the tone because it was just unique, and I think any film should feel that way. If it's unique enough, good luck
see,
on that.
that is the
That's
type
why
of
you couldn't do
film-
Evil Dead. You could make a different version, and they did. They made a film that I actually enjoyed. I know a lot of people didn't, but they didn't make Sam Raimi's
No.
Evil Dead because that already existed in
but
his way.
I don't think a kid would want to see Possession
No, it's
because
very adult.
it's so adult.
It's the most adult horror film I've seen.
Like, Don't Look Now. If
Yeah, it's like
somebody
that.
had
It's-
approached me with that when I was in high school, I would have been like, this is so boring. I am so bored by these people and their dead daughter.
Oh, but it would scare the shit out of you by the end of it.
If I'd made it to
regardless.
the end. But I mean, I think Possession is the same way where
They're
like
similar.
it's, these very adult situations and these adult people in these horrible situations. There's a monster going on too. And it's just, but that's where the horror is built out of, is much more of what's going on with these adults. And yeah, I don't think it would have enlightened me enough to keep watching. when
Art
I
house
was,
horror
like,
in general.
18. Yeah.
That topic and with French extremism is wrapped up in there too. In general, isn't made for kids. That's the interesting thing. They'd get bored. They wouldn't, 28
But
pounds.
see, that's the
all
kind of thing that I kind of go out of my way to watch with my children.
Oh, yeah, interesting.
I made sure they watch things like
Irreversible?
haven't watched Irreversible with them yet, but I watched Enter the Void.
Enter the Void?
with them.
That's a good one.
Which
Yeah, it's visually and editing in that film's incredible.
it's kind of heartbreaking. And things like Bug.
That's
Yeah.
I watch
cool.
them
William
because
Friedkin.
I try to make sure I force them to watch things that test their patience because everything in this world is geared to limit it. As a parent, you watch your children being exposed to non-stop media blasts. Everyone has a screen
reality
in their
shows
hand
and stuff.
Well, I mean, they've
it's on
got
24/7.
They'll have a computer and a phone
It
and
took
an
over
iPad
Shark
and,
Week.
and everything else, and so they're bombarded by quick cuts of everything all the time. And so, if you can instill in them and seriously, you have to start at like this age. That patience, like I'm going to sit down with my child and we're going to watch a silent movie. I don't care if they don't pay attention. They're going to get used to the pacing. They're going to get used to seeing this kind of color scheme, this kind of light scheme, this, trying to expose my children to films like Don't Look Now. I mean, I watched that with my kids already, and they sat through it. Neither of them got it, but they sat through it.
I wouldn't have understood that when I was a kid.
I didn't understand it terribly when I saw it at 15. So, but that kind of thing is, as a parent, invaluable. It's the little moments where you are the gatekeeper of taste in the house. You don't have to allow. I'm dating myself, but like Barney, like that kind of crap never entered my house.
It's been cool for like 10 years.
Yeah, I know. I'm old and my kids are old.
But I want to talk about bubble guppies.
Bubble guppies is where it's at.
Yeah, none of that shit. Fuck all of that shit. None of that happened in my house. My kids did not listen to Kids Bop. It was. You want to get them into music early on? You give them simple beats. Here's AC/DC. Here's the Ramones. Really simple. They follow along. Here's Iggy Pop. Like my kids grew up loving that. I mean, my 16-year-old's already played gigs at the House of Blues and the Key Club and stuff like that.
It's pretty wild.
He's a pretty rad little rocker, and it's because being a parent, it's essential that you are the gatekeeper of taste. Yeah. If you give in to
bubble guppies,
if you give in to the parental peer pressure. To your kids have got to be into this. Oh, you mean they don't like
Raffi? Raffi is also
Raffi
dated.
Still around?
No, Raffi is also dated. But I say Raffi because a person that we've talked about before in this podcast, Matthew Curry Holmes. When we gave birth to Marnie, he brought us a whole bunch of Calliope, his daughter. He brought us some of her hand-me-downs and books and things like that. And she was apparently really into Raffi. And Dave and I were kind of like, "What is this shit?" And we didn't.
Yeah. Don't expose your kids to any art that you wouldn't consume.
Yeah, I like that.
I think is. And if you live that as a rule, your kids are going to come out like with at least similar tastes, at least tastes where you can have touchstones and talk about things.
Right.
Yeah,
right.
Oh,
that's interesting.
I remember when I met you years ago, and I hung out with you and your kids, and I'm like, your kids are so darn cool, and you're like, it's all what you put into them.
Yeah. It's a science experiment.
Like, they didn't have Barney and all that nonsense. I played the Ramones for them.
That's
why they're cool.
Vessels.
We got a picture show called Scary Nanny. Instead of Super Nanny, it's Scary Nanny, and this is the guy.
Oh yeah,
Scary Nanny.
This is going to become a reality show, guys.
I can't wait.
It's going to replace Shark Week next year.
We have some questions to answer that they want to know. I think Sean should get in on these.
Really quick before we leave this, I wanted to give the professional advice I got on how to introduce.
Professional from who?
From our pediatrician. Because when we gave birth to Marnie, I was really kind of worried about everything that's around the house and her seeing things. Like I have a giant piranha from the Piranha movie that's kind of anchored above our bed, and we've got posters everywhere and things, and I was really worried about, even at a young age, if this stuff was going to F her up.
A mobile of knives over her
pretty much so.
Nude photo of John Gallagher.
That's in my private closet. We actually made an appointment with her pediatrician. This is how anal retentive I am. I made an appointment with her pediatrician, and we sat down in her pediatrician's office, and I said, I need advice on how to integrate these things into her lives, or if we worry about them. And she said, you do not worry the bit. She will tell you if something is scary, and it's not going to be at all what you think it is.
Yep.
You might have that poster of the skeleton, holding a bloody axe in the hallway. She's not going to be scared of that. She's going to be scared of the kitten one that you have in the living room.
We've had one. I've never seen Dash scared, not once. And there's my favorite painting that I own. My sister painted a imaginary picture of what my mother would look like if she was a Maori, the native New Zealander. And he just points to it and is scared and says, I want it down. And he makes it go down. And it went down at one point when I wasn't there, and I was like, where'd that picture go? I'm like, that I would never, and that's the only thing he's reacted to like that. So I think that's interesting.
Well, Maori would be so other.
Yeah.
It falls into that unknown.
Yeah, they don't know what, because she has a little tattoo on the chin.
Mm-hmm. So was what, and I mean, I was very concerned about this, to say the least. Mm-hmm. And we've discovered that no matter what we do, Marnie is going to be kind of saturated into the horror community just because of, you guys and everything. And like little things like my mom gave her this clown doll, and we, of course, name her toys so that, we can start identifying. So
you call it Pennywise.
It's named Pennywise. And she has a witch doll I named Helena Marcos. Nice. So it's like, here's Helena Marcos, here's Pennywise. And then we're suddenly like, she's just in this, whether or not she wants to be. So,
it's one I don't have to wreck. I love it.
Yeah. You're good at the neighborhood.
She's going to end up at barbecues with you guys.
She's going to be cool.
And I build the haunted house at my kid's school every year. And
so
first day of school every year without fail, Mr. Keller's going to be haunted house this year. And so the kids come running up to me. Is it going to be a haunted house this year? Because I didn't do it one year because I was burnt out after doing it like 9 years in a row. I took 1 year off and expected a few other dads to step up, and no one did. So I caught endless shit from kids for a whole year. And so now, from now on, I show up first day. Are we going to have a haunted house? Are we going to have one this year? Are we gonna? And they're so excited. And I'm creepy Mr. Keller. You know, I'm the guy who's got the scary stuff, and they want to come over and hear scary stories. And I'm like, cool. Well, are your parents like my son's kids go rifling through my DVD collection? Can we watch this? I'm like, you know what? No. And Clay's like, I've seen it 5 times. You know, and so my children are like, I've seen this so many times. And they talk about all this stuff, and the kids all want to watch it. But I'm like, well, I'm not going to go screw up someone else's
note from
child.
your parents.
Exactly. I'm not about to incur the wrath of some pissed off parent because some kid can't sleep because they didn't explain that horror is all phony. That or at least these movies are phony.
Yeah.
Actually, I put a call out to we're getting a lot of feedback on our Facebook, which I think is pretty neat.
Which is awesome.
A lot of people that I don't know, that you guys don't know either. So it's not like our regular friends.
No,
and we also want
really
them to go to the Geek Nation site and comment under shows because it'll go directly to our
You can,
Facebook.
pretty much any show on Geek Nation's website you can comment on via your Facebook profile.
Yeah, that's cool.
You should do that. But so I put a call out for questions if anyone had them, and we'll see how this goes. Maybe we'll do it every
Dick
week.
Grunertz? I thought his was a good one.
Oh, I didn't see that one yet, but let's go through them really quick.
I'll throw this one out because while you're looking. What film, Dick Gruner, who plays Heart Trivia with us and writes a great cartoon animation, he asked, which horror film would we be surprised that you have not seen? And in a room like this, obviously, there's always... I can shock you as a film person, nothing to do with horror. I've never seen Lawrence of Arabia, and I've seen so many freaking movies in my life that I've never. And one of the reasons,
either,
I think the reason I kept saying, "Oh, I'll watch it on the screen one day," and now suddenly it's playing a lot on a big screen. I need to go. Anyway,
same here.
But so there's always something surprising when you meet cinephiles or horror fans. I had to look through a lot of titles to think because I couldn't really think of a big one because there's lots of obscure stuff. I found one that surprised me. Black Sunday by Bava. I'd never seen it. Never watched it. And I have had options to see it, but just haven't yet.
Yeah, I've never seen any Bava stuff. I just bought a Bava box set.
You've never seen
I own
Twitch
the
of
whole
Death?
Bava.
I'm sorry.
Hatch for Honeymoon.
Yeah.
That's the one I've seen is Twitch of the Death
You haven't seen the
Nerve.
more medieval, historic kind of...
No, I've never seen anything other than Twitch of the Death Nerve.
He's got some really good ones that aren't even like completely genre, like Kidnapped is really fun.
I think he's a very talented
Black
filmmaker.
Sabbath is, I mean, you can look at Tim Burton's aesthetic and draw a direct line from that all the way through.
Black Sabbath,
Yeah. And my sister is a fine artist, and one of my favorite pieces of art she's made me is she sewed the eyes of what's her name, the star of Black Sabbath, Barbara Steele. Her right before she gets the mask pounded on, she's got that horrified look in her eyes, and she did a still of that and sewed an image of that onto some vellum, and it's the coolest thing I've got hanging in my office.
Wow.
I love Black Sabbath.
So what about you guys?
Anyone that you haven't seen that would be surprising?
I've admitted mine on the air before. I've never seen the original Phantasm.
That's true.
That is a big one.
We're gonna have to do that one.
I will also say, because Dave gives me crap on this one all the time, I've never seen Terror Train.
Ooh, yeah.
I wouldn't say that's a big deal.
No, but
it's
like
interesting.
You're
it's
not
one of
missing
his
much.
I've also never seen Dark Knight of the Scarecrow, and that's another one that he's like, "What's wrong with you?"
But those are more
they're
obscure.
smaller films, but the big one's Phantasm.
And
I've
I bet you've never seen
Phantasm.
Scanners 3: The Takeover yet.
I have not.
I have it on VHS now.
Whatever. I got the new Scream Factory release.
Mr. Keller?
I'm a guy who doesn't go in for sequels, and so if
Purposely
it goes
avoided
past 3,
Yeah.
I'm out. I've never seen I saw 4, but I never saw 5, 6. I never saw Halloween 5 or 6. I've never seen Friday the 13th 6, 7, 8. Like they hold zero appeal to me. Like you couldn't force me to give 2 shits for any of those sequels because I've seen the film 100 times. I've seen every version of it. I don't care. I don't care. I don't see it. So people might be, "Oh, you never saw it." I'm like, no, I'm not that kind of guy. I go in for the originals, or maybe I'll stick around for 2 and 3.
Well, if the story's still there, that's usually the thing. Like Insidious, I'm expecting it's just a further of that story rather than a
I'm in
remake
for
of
a
a
2.
routine. Yeah, 2 up to 3. That's
and if the
usually
2 falls
chain.
flat, I'm not going to go to 3.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, I'm actually skimming through my collection here on my phone. I've never seen Roman Polanski's The Tenant.
Oh, that's
Yeah,
a really
that's a
good
good
one.
one.
That's again
own
one of
it.
my favorites. That's
I own
top
it.
10 kind of.
I know Bruce Campbell has mentioned that's one of his favorite horror
Really,
movies.
that's
Yeah.
really interesting. I just
Yeah,
don't think
that
of
is
Bruce
a little
Campbell.
shocking.
I've seen him at a ton of
His aesthetic
Q&As.
is
Probably
so
just,
similar.
Bruce Campbell just giggles when he slaps the child. Roman slaps a little boy.
The
But
Tenant,
that's-
it's a little bit of a slow burn.
Yeah.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah.
It's a more psychological. But it also had the best marketing campaign ever, given who Roman is, and it just kept saying, "Nobody does it to you like Polanski," over and over again. And you're just like, "Oh,
Yeah,
that's true."
Speaking of childhood
much.
terrors.
Oh, yeah, that's
Yeah, and you know what? I own it. I've never seen the whole thing. I don't think I've ever sat through The Wicker Man.
Oh, another one I love.
It's
Yeah.
another slow burn, but it's so worth it at the
I
end.
really don't think I have. So those are
Edward
my two.
Woodward, my God, he's so good.
he's
Well,
so
you'll get a
good.
chance to watch it
Lord
with whatever this
Samurai.
new version is. We'll see what that is.
Yeah. So let's see on our Facebook. Cole asks, "What are your thoughts on the state of horror right now and where it's headed?"
That's broad.
Yeah, that
Pretty
could be a whole
broad.
show.
I mean,
We've
honestly,
got about another hour or two, right?
Yeah.
yeah. all I'd say is it's good this year.
Yeah,
and that's
it's
all I'm
been a
thinking
good
about.
year. I mean, we've had Stoker and The Conjuring and World
I'm so
War
bold to
Z
say I think
and-
it's for me it was the best year since like '88. Like in terms of just so
Really?
many
Wow.
films. I've seen so many indie films and just mainstream films. Like who would have thought I'd see Stoker and Conjuring and an Adept Evil Dead remake, and there's just like all these, and then there's little films and there's still stuff coming out this year. So to
Well-
me, I'm kind of shocked that there's been that much.
I'll just say that the state of horror is always kind of in flux. But the thing is, if there's always good stuff every year. I mean, it's always funny when we get to the end of the year and we start doing our little like lists or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
But everyone's always complaining there's nothing new, there's nothing original. There's plenty of stuff if you look for it.
Yep.
So every year there's at least a handful of things that are worth checking out.
Last year there wasn't a lot. I remember last year I sort of like I did a top 10. I remember going, I liked my number one film a lot. I was Citadel for me. I loved Citadel,
Oh, yeah.
and then after that I was like, and it kind of fell away. And this year I'm like, I already have 10 films. I love.
I
Well,
put The Bay as my number one film last year because
That's
I
right, I
really
remember.
liked it. But by the time I got to like number 4, I was like Excision, which on any other year I would have been
wouldn't
like,
even make it.
I loved Excision.
it's okay for
I
me.
love
I
that
mean,
one
it was
too.
good,
love
but
that was
it
like my number
wasn't.
2, I think.
I really loved it. I think that that question's so loaded.
Yeah, I think that could be another show.
Well, because also we're old.
Yeah.
Horror.
It's
I mean,
pretty,
adult films are hard to come by. Horror films that appeal to adults are hard to come by. Horror films are made for kids. They're made
teens.
for teens.
Yeah.
That's what it
Yeah.
always will be
And-
and what it always should be.
Right,
The horror
right.
films that I'm really
they're not gonna
looking
appeal to
forward
us.
to now are not the same ones that teens are. Like, I'm really looking forward to Witching and Bitching, which is the new Alex de Iglesias film.
Yeah,
It's
of course.
Spanish.
He's so good.
Teens aren't going to watch it. I'm really looking forward to Tulpa, which is this like psychological horror, kind of Gene Roland arty one. I'm really looking forward to that. So, I mean, and these are not things that
Yeah, when
teens
you were
would watch
18,
in
these were
any
not
way.
the type of movies you'd be looking for.
But also
God,
look
no.
at this when they ask what's the state of horror. I mean, you're like Walking Dead's the number one show on the fucking planet.
But that
And what does
said,
that
I
tell us
still
about the
hold
po-
by.
you know?
And I mean, did you guys come to, Rob and I were on a panel at Scare LA, and I said like 3 times on that panel that zombies
are
were
over.
dead. Zombies are dead, people. They are dead.
But they're not. But they're not in Walking Dead.
She's
I mean,
not
they're-
really, she doesn't really mean that. It's okay, QED. I'm still going to write that teen zombie film for you.
I'm sorry.
that
I mean,
just sold
except for
pitch
the
Thank you very much.
Sean Walker project or Sean Keller project, and The Walking Dead. Those are the 2 times that it will apply. But no, I mean, The Walking Dead is still carrying on right now because it's got
character, but it's about the
characters.
characters. Yeah, it's not about.
But I mean, it's like the same thing with, why I say True Blood is carrying on. Vampires died a while ago, but True
True
Blood
Blood
is
died a
kind
while
of,
ago.
some people are still watching, but I think it's much more of a character thing instead of, I just love vampires.
Right.
But yeah,
There's got to be an easier to answer question. That's a big one. That is a whole topic.
I still stand.
That's the
Zombies
state of
are
horror.
dead.
Matt
Horrific.
Cunningham asks our thoughts on the TV movie Bad Ronald. Always
I
thought it was.
loved Bad
All right,
Ronald.
never seen
I thought
it.
it was
Yeah, never
primed
seen it.
for a,
Sorry.
dare I say, remake. You know
It's
what?
actually a
Most
good one
TV
for a
movies.
remake.
I kind of agree with that. It's a really cool little TV movie.
Mm-hmm.
I think there's a Warner Archive release.
I
of it or
own it
something.
if you guys want to borrow it.
Do Grimace and the Hamburglar show up?
No, it's a
John
very,
Wayne Casey movie, Bad Ronald.
Here's the thing.
I would be in a heartbeat.
Here's the thing. Believe it or not, the very quick premise is that it's about a kid named Ronald who has like this weird obsessive mother, and while he's walking home from school and getting teased on by the kids, he like pushes this girl that's teasing him and accidentally kills her. Like she falls over and dies, and he freaks out. So his mom hides him within the walls of the house. Like there's a secret room in the house. And then while he's hiding him there, she dies and he doesn't know. So a new family moves in. It's Dabney Coleman and his daughters.
Love him. He's a good
And so they're living in the house months later and they keep hearing what they think is somebody within their walls. It's pretty creepy.
It's very creepy.
When they were remaking Black Christmas, the initial premise of it sounded so much like they were just remaking Bad Ronald. They didn't go that way, but they should have, because I was like, oh, if Black Christmas, the remake was like just a Bad Ronald remake, that would have been kind of cool. So yeah, I actually like that movie a lot.
Then you wouldn't have had flesh cookies.
Oh God.
But
so good.
when I was watching the New
Guilty
Zealand
pleasure.
show that you
Really? I don't know.
the Australian show that you had referred me to, Bad Boy Bubby, had qualities.
Great tits, mum. Eighth
Yeah.
wonder of the world. Those tits.
It was not too far off. If that had been handled in a very serious manner.
Oh, it's a great film.
Yeah,
That's one of my
that would
favorite
have
films.
been
Best cult.
Bad
One of
Boy
the
Bub-
great cult
or-
films if you ever get a chance to see it.
Yeah.
Bad Boy Bubby. 40-year-old man's never been out of his house, raised by a mom who told him it's apocalypse out there and can never go outside, even though she's just lying. And then one day she dies, so he goes outside.
Wasn't that Blast from the Past? With,
This was before that. This is earlier. This is pre-Blast from the Past. And then Blast from the Past, I'm pretty sure Brendan Fraser never sleeps with his mother, right?
I think you're thinking.
I don't know. I think he got it on with Sissy Spacek.
Encino Man, he
Oh,
does
wait.
this.
She was so bored. She was drinking a lot.
All right.
Let's see.
I think we answered that question.
Yes. Done. It's like the
well,
goodies.
Well, Brian Collin wants to know, do you like ... stuff? I think he's being a jerk, but obviously Elric loves the stuff.
I love,
I
this
love
stuff.
the stuff.
I think he's just being banal.
Yeah.
There you go, Brian
Way to go,
Collins.
Brian
we actually
Collins.
answered your question.
Is Collins capable of being banal?
I don't know.
Let's see. J. Michael Kober was saying how he liked Darren's creepy story, and he kind of liked your ideas about the Purge sequel.
I've been throwing away my ideas lately for no money.
Do you guys have any other unique original stories? or
Gotta snatch him up
concepts?
too.
This guy's just sitting at there.
I do, but I'm
you got
scared to
any-
talk about it.
Can you give me a couple of log
lines?
Yes, not that we're not going to give you our fully fleshed out ideas, but he says, but maybe even ideas where you'd like to see franchises go, which I think is kind of fun.
Well, like Darren did tell us, one direction he was thinking of taking Saw last week, which I thought was interesting. I can't remember if that was on air or not, so I probably...
It wasn't on
okay,
air,
so
so
I
we
won't
can't
talk
talk
about it.
about
But it
that.
was interesting to hear people... Obviously, all filmmakers have ideas where they would want their franchises to go.
Yeah.
I mean, do you guys have any franchises that you like? You love Hellraiser. Like,
I
is
do
there
love
something you'd
Hellraiser.
like
I
to
do
see?
too. I love Hellraiser.
The ones that I would want to see are from the comic books. Like there's a couple of the comic book stories that I would just really, really love to do. There's also a few films that I've always said, gosh, I'd really like to remake that. And some of them are just purely like vanity films. Like I really want to do something Wicked This Way Comes just because I think it needs an update. And I just love that movie to death. So, but then there are other ones that I'm like, you know what, this really could use an update for a modern day audience. And I think it would be successful. One that is like a mind experiment for me. And my husband and I, we've already fleshed out the whole script. We want to remake Manos Hands of Fate and make it scary as shit.
Wow.
So that's kind of the one thing that, because there's a group right now that's remaking Manos Hands of Fate, but they're doing it in the same kind of campy, just we shot it on, handheld cam and we found these clothes.
Take it seriously.
Yeah. And we want to do it seriously with ridiculously high production values and a really, really polished script and make it just super scary and show that,
So how do
this
you
is what
make
you
somebody
can turn it.
scared of the hands of fate?
Because the whole concept of it is actually, I mean, he's a god. He's an evil god who's possessed all these women and is keeping them in a dungeon and not letting them leave. And I mean, that in itself, it's God. And he's got these scary dogs and this gatekeeper who's almost kind of Renfield-like, who
My
controls
favorite
everything, who's trying to
article
overthrow him.
I've ever read about a movie was an Entertainment Weekly, shockingly.
The one on Hands of...
And for the longest time, I wanted to make that into a movie. It's a biopic. It's basically about the making of Manos Hands of Fate. And the characters are so beautifully fleshed out that it's kind of like Ed
one
Wood,
guy
but it's a lot
kills
sadder.
himself. It's very sad.
The Igor character, whatever his name. But it's about a fertilizer salesman who saved up all his money in this small town, every cent he ever made from fertilizer salesman, to make a movie.
Yeah.
That's already a beautiful story to me. Like some guy who's just in this hodunk town, he's like, I sell fertilizer and one day I'm going to make a movie. And it happened to be Manos Hands of Fate.
So his life is literally shit.
Yeah.
And he makes a movie that's
Wait,
shit.
hold on. John
people-
Carpenter. Boom.
But he cast people from the local community theater,
Yeah, that's
and the guy who plays Torgo
Torgo is the one who did. But and I'm just telling you, not because you need to remake it, but it is a great story. Look it up, Entertainment Weekly. It's the first time I ever read something in that pretty much piece of crap rag where I was like, oh my God, that's a 10-page story and it's amazing. Like I wanted to know more about this world.
Riveting. That was, but I had not seen the movie before I read that article, but that article made me go see the movie. And the first time I saw it was the Mystery Science Theater version where they riff it. And then I watched it without the Mystery Science Theater riffing with it because the DVD has both versions. And my husband and I were sitting there and we were just kind of seeing this really muddy, just really kind of messy little gem that we just wanted to extract this pearl from it and stick it in another movie and say, you know, this is what we took from this.
I think that period of films actually is the case because a lot of them aren't made well, and a lot of the exploitation 16 millimeter shot films of the 60s and 70s are often like that. They're not, and I'm not talking the ones we all know like Last House. I'm talking about the other stuff you don't really know and you stumble across and go, oh, this is not very good, but then there'll be something in it, like a scene or an idea, the Corpse Grinders or something where you're like, oh man, that's just incredible, but the rest of the film's bad, the dialogue's bad. I've always said this, I believe they're the films that deserve remakes when they're
good.
You
could do them better now.
Don't remake stuff that already was perfect.
Wants to bankroll it,
Rosemary Baby does not need to be remade.
Race with the Devil.
Exactly.
Or something along those lines.
Even though that was awesome.
But it can
still get a remake.
Yeah, but awesome is really...
Well, it's awesome because it's Peter Fonda and Warren Beatty.
Warren Oates and Loretta Swit. But the Satanists were laughable.
Yeah.
And
that's not what you watch. Yeah, exactly. You're watching.
If you had a Purge-like element to that kind of a story, you get something scary. If you even pushed it into like the story of the West Memphis 3 kind of thing and drove it out that direction, you'd have something scary.
How would you reboot Freddy?
I wouldn't.
No, but if somebody was
10 fucking movies, fuck that shit.
So there's no way to make it scary.
Can I swear some more? Can I swear a little bit more?
One of the ones, and my husband and I guess I love living with a screenwriter because he lets me talk about this stuff all the time, and it's always a constant kind of imagining of what we would do if we were shooting movies and things like that. So it's fun. But we were sitting at dinner one night, and we were talking about William Castle and how we, that some of his movies had been remade, like House on Haunted Hill, but
Which
it was remade in kind of the same campy value that the original was, and I love the remake. I'm kind of isolated.
It was scary. It had some scary. Jeff Combs stuff was scary.
It was one of the first ones to use the kind of creepy walk,
the motion.
The motion stop walk. And so, that definitely really scared me, creeped me out, which I just said is screeped me.
Oh, I like that. That's a good word.
It screeped me.
Tay Diggs screeped her out.
I've screeped a couple people.
I
think Tay Diggs screeped me a little bit too from my rent days.
He screeped a lot of people.
It screeped me. But the one William Castle film that I really would like to do and not approach it in a comedic manner, approach it in a serious manner.
Don't say The Tingler.
I want to say The Tingler.
No!
Because I know, and I love the original Tingler, but I love the idea of a creature who... We discover the cause of death. No, not the scream.
Okay.
We discover the cause of death, and it's something that lives in the human spine. And if we extract it, you live forever.
Oh, but that was from the Tales from Krypton. Remember the episode where I wanted to remember the episode with the spirit is wedged in the spine?
Oh, God damn it.
And they read,
There you go.
Oh, my God, the Tingler's
I would love to dive back into the alien universe, but go before it all happened, but put it on the wrong planet and maybe introduce creatures that didn't look like
You've
the
confused
xenomorph.
me already.
Oh, wait a minute.
Hold on, back up.
That
I
already
need
got-
a
that
diagram.
happened.
If I could remake anything, I'm not even joking, I would remake The Purge.
Really?
Yeah,
Actually,
No, because I think the idea was so good and the film just was not.
Man, I hope Blum is listening to our show.
It just
'cause
could be
you're
such a
getting
fun
free
idea.
ideas every week, and now you want to just remake his
I
movies.
just fucking hire me and let's just be done with this. Let's dance. Let's get over this little dance we're playing,
let's
Jason
make
Blum.
The Purge 2, and it's done.
But no,
it's done.
I'm not a big fan. Like, I don't want to see Rosemary's Baby become a TV show. I really, I don't need that. I'm not as.
Although, do you want to watch the Castavetes younger as a TV series?
The what?
Like the Castavetes, the neighbors. Like, what's it
right,
like to be
right,
the young
yeah.
Satanist couple? Come on, that would be great.
That would be kind of
Okay,
funny.
that
Like
might be
1950s
amusing.
period, younger version of the Castavetes. I would watch that.
That would be fun.
I would
That'd be
watch
fun.
that show in a heartbeat.
But
I read William
That would be
Castle,
fun.
back to William Castle. I read his biography, and I mean, all of his stuff about, marketing and matinees and all that stuff was really interesting, but the most fascinating stuff was about Rosemary's Baby.
oh yeah, it's his.
man.
It was
Just
his,
because him producing it and the death threats he got, and it was fascinating.
Well, this is also his attempt to establish himself as a serious
Yeah.
producer, and he would have directed it, but that wouldn't have worked.
That's a whole nother show. So,
With him
Rob,
standing
what do you
outside
want to remake?
the phone booth.
I don't want to remake something, but actually there is a story. I'm trying to find the name of it, but I can't. Sean, remember I bought us the Books of Blood volume 4 through 6, which I never knew existed. I always thought Books of Blood was just 1 through 3, but I had to get an import of volumes 4 through 6.
So we could read The Forbidden.
The story that inspired Candyman,
My
The Forbidden.
favorite horror movie of the 90s, period.
So I bought that for both myself and Sean last Christmas, and I was on a flight and I wish I could remember the name of the story. I think it's the first or second one in volume 4, but it's essentially about a guy who's...
I didn't get there yet.
You didn't even get there yet. I mean, Clive Barker is like one of the best writers, and I was thinking to myself, how could I make this into a short? But it was essentially a guy whose hands were turning on him, and like all the hands in the world wanted to like sever themselves from bodies and take over.
It sounds
it's
so
amazing.
hilarious.
It's like the right hand is telling the left hand, he's like, he's asleep now. Now we can do it. And it's just a brilliant story.
That's scary.
Yeah, it's really cool. So it's a Clive Barker story from Books of Blood.
Yeah, if we ever do
Volume 4.
fiction, like what
I'll
our
find out the
gateway
name.
books is interesting for me. Damnation Game was the first book that just like made my mind like go whoa, because I'd read Stephen King stuff, but Damnation Game was so dark. Oh yeah, Poe. Yeah, of course.
10
Poe,
years
of
old,
course.
I was reading Poe, and it freaked me out. But speaking of Clive Barker, the In the Hills, the Cities, if I was ever going to try to make something that was unmakeable, that's my like unmakeable short that I want to turn into a film, because that's
ambitious.
Every time I think about it, it sends my skin crawling. The concept of giants made of people fighting each other. It's sort of like hits every kaiju mecha button, but is so gory and visceral and living and awful. It just freaked me out.
There are 2 texts that I would love to make the film versions of. The first one I actually looked into, Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark, which was books that I think that a lot of us read as youth. How did you guys not read these? They had Alvin Schwartz. They had he was the author, but they had all of these like really gooey artwork that went along with them.
Yeah, the artwork's fantastic.
And the artwork is what everybody remembered, because it was just this really, really gooey, visceral artwork. But these were kids' books. And so I actually contacted Alvin Schwartz's widow about the rights for it. And they're up for grabs. And apparently I was like the 10th person to call her. So don't stay off them. They're mine.
Yeah, we shouldn't probably give away all our good stuff to listeners who are going to...
The last one.
Well, good luck.
The last one I'll never
material.
do. But the last one, I really wanted to always do The Blue Bottle, which I think is Ray Bradbury, I'm pretty sure.
Don't know.
And it is this story about these guys who are looking for this supposed blue bottle, which is out in the desert. And the thing that's inside is supposed to be the greatest thing in the world. And several of them, but you have to have like certain criteria to see it. And it's kind of like the Ark of the Covenant. And so some of them open
John
it up.
Carpenter's
and
Prince of Darkness.
Yeah, exactly. But some of them open it up and it's like these horrifying deaths. And then to others, it's just a bottle of wine. And it was always a really poetic story to me. So I really liked
Sounds
that
almost
one.
like The Box in a weird way.
It is.
Oh, the Twilight Zone episode of that's so good.
Yeah.
It's so good.
So
I'm still trying to find it. I can't find it.
Now we should make that like a regular feature. I mean, if people write us interest, we're not going to just answer questions if there's nothing. But
Elric, can I have your shoes?
yeah, that was weird.
That was Mike Williamson.
Mike Williamson should just be banned from our Facebook page. Aspect ratio.
And deprive everyone of the wry wit.
I'm sure he didn't listen this far. So
He turned it off an hour ago.
I love you, Mike.
We all love you.
One more shout out. Come on, Zombie Writing Torture Family. Everyone except Garo has been
on the show
in this room. So everyone,
is that a challenge?
5 of the 6 members of our
That's right.
dominant
We're very biased
trivia
here.
team.
Who is? Let's one question behind the scenes of that. Who gets the most of the? Is it Brian? Would Brian be the person who would get the most right
Jared.
overall?
Jared's our secret weapon.
And Garo.
Garo's really good
He
too.
knows every monster movie ever made.
Yeah.
He knows details from my sci-fi dumb movies. Like,
we all have very specific. That's the thing that everyone thinks like it's all Brian. It's not. It's all of us are good at each other. We got each
we're
other's back.
complementary.
Right.
Brian wrote
He
in his
saved our
article.
Carpenter round. You did.
Yeah. And
You were
like
pretty
I'm
amazing.
good at like the literature stuff and the weird stuff.
Yeah.
Like Jared kicks ass on the art house horror. He knew that you had to fuck life in the gallbladder,
That was that was the
Stuff
first
like that.
question I ever wrote.
Yeah. So like he gets the Warholian stuff.
That was the very first
you know.
question. And I was so nervous doing it because I sat down and Ryan and I were like, no one's going to come to this.
Rob has never gotten a Dexter question wrong. So that's
Shut
awesome.
up. There's only been one.
What was the name of Dexter's boat?
No, not the boat.
The bowling team.
I asked the bowling
That's the
team.
slice of life, the boat.
Yeah.
I
That was
asked
that
what the
one.
bowling team was. Bowl till you bleed.
Bowl till you bleed. Now I know. Yeah.
I only
love it,
knew
Rob.
that because David
I won a round
Zayas
finally.
gave me the
So
bowling
I'm okay.
shirt.
I'm okay. I won a round.
Well, you know what? Brian Collins screwed up that Texas Chainsaw Massacre question and said Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2. He was totally wrong. So now we all have one that we can make fun of each
There
other
you
about.
go. There you
And
go.
speaking of Texas Chainsaw
And
Massacre 2, it's going to play at New Beverly coming
Yeah,
up.
I saw that at
that's
midnight
going to be
screening.
fun. Even though we've been dying to see number 3 on the big screen, we were
Yes.
trying to get it to
All
happen.
is family.
So yeah, we're
Yeah.
trying to make that happen, but we found out it was probably
Yeah,
never going to
yeah.
happen. So number 2 might be fun.
We'll see. You
I'll
never
take
know.
it.
Number 2's fun, but it's not a horror film to me. It's like, it's like horror-like comedy.
Yeah, it's ridiculous.
It's okay.
Exactly.
It's a good time. But yeah, we should start wrapping it up.
Yeah, I think we've
answered
some questions, and
I think we've been going on for a while.
We'll try to
And-
do more questions next time. And
And-
I have started securing our guests for September and October. We got a lot of cool shit coming up.
Yes.
I don't want to spoil too much.
I'm
Go
gonna
ahead,
be,
talk past me. Make me feel little.
We're happy to have
I'm
Sean
going to be
Keller.
away. I'm going to be away for a week in September, and I think that Sean should be my stand-in.
Ooh.
Whoa,
See,
you
there
got
you
voted
go.
in.
I
Look
have
at
to go
that.
to the Shaka Khan convention, which
When's that?
Shaka Khan. It is October.
Is this for real? Like Shaka Khan?
Is Rufus going to be
Shaka
there?
Khan is not going to be there. Doug Jones is. No, it's a standard horror con that they're doing in Charleston, West
Oh.
Virginia, and I'm appearing as a guest. So if you're in the West Virginia area, please come say hi. I'll be handing out awesome prizes. And then I'm also judging a film fest in my hometown that same week. And then I'm also judging a film fest in DC. So I'm kind of up and down the East Coast for a couple of days. So I will be out for a week. Plus I'm saying hi to the family because, yeah.
And if you
should
want to
do
meet
that.
her in person, go up to her and just, tap her on the shoulder and give her a big old kiss.
Hey, so
No.
that's not going to get you like punched. Dave's coming with me to these.
Okay.
and he
But we are
tends
going to have
get-
cards.
Oh yeah, I do want to get cards made.
Killer
We're
POV
getting all
cards.
fancy.
If you want to get Becca's attention, dress as a nun.
Oh, yeah.
I do like nuns.
Yeah. Or as Oliver Reed.
Yeah.
That works too. If you got the looks.
Yeah. So thanks for joining us. Definitely hit up the Geek Nation website, comment over there, go to our Facebook, leave some more questions. We'll try to get to them in a little more timely manner.
And one other thing is maybe we do one of these a week with a million topics. We're always happy to guide our whole show with a topic. If you have a
guys
great
give us
topic,
good
topic you want us to
we'll
tackle.
tweak it.
yeah, if it can work, we'll make it
I
happen.
kind of like books. We should do a horror literature one. Good
Yeah,
question.
that'd be fun.
When you're away, we'll get Sean to do that one.
Don't do that without me.
All right.
I gotta flex my nerdy literary
All right.
muscle a little
She's
bit.
the
Come on,
doctor here.
guys.
She's got
I'm not a doctor yet.
Oh, good.
Not
working
yet.
on it?
I got 2 more semesters to go.
Nuns, more killer
I'm
nuns.
a doctor.
Are you really?
I
If you say Dr.
He's a
Love,
reverend.
I'm going to kick you in the shins under the table.
Theologian.
I have a doctorate of divinity
Are you fucking serious?
from the Universal Life Church. It cost an extra $20 with my reverendship.
Dr. Love.
But I got the D. I could put Reverend Sean Keller D.D.
I like that.
That's true. That's true.
Now, are you ordained? Can you like marry people?
Oh yeah, I've performed 5 marriages and 1 ceremony for a funeral.
Dave and I are having our
Wow.
10-year anniversary this Halloween, and we thought we talked about getting
Wait a minute.
remarried.
Didn't the show end?
I will gladly remarry you.
Let's end the show with
Let's
Jesus
talk
Christ
about
Superstar.
Jesus Christ Superstar.
What's the buzz?
If you guys
Tell me
want to
what's
get
happening.
married,
What's the buzz?
Sean will
Tell me
marry
what's
you at the
happening.
Jump Cut
Yeah.
Cafe.
There you go. Yeah.
Come on in and
witness.
Jump Kettle cater it.
Free marriage with every latte.
Make sure you screw your children up for me real
Yeah,
good.
exactly. Yeah.
There you go.
Don't
All right,
watch
thanks so
Shark
much.
Week. And
We'll be
we're
back
out.
next week. Later.